Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers. Chapter 379. A normal Dao pattern secret technique could only turn one of the 5 elements Dao patterns into a Dao pattern. However, the Dao pattern secret technique obtained by the Yun family ancestor could turn many of the 5 elements Dao patterns into Dao patterns. Jiangxi seemed to have understood something. This might be the reason why the Yun family's Dao pattern secret technique could be recognized by the experience panel. It could not only cultivate the 5 elements Dao patterns, but other Dao patterns could also be turned into Dao patterns. This was enough to prove the power of the secret technique. Xiao Yan continued. Not long after the Yun family ancestor's secret was spread, the Lord's residents destroyed the Yun family. However, they did not obtain the Yun family ancestor's Dao pattern secret technique in the end. However, no one expected that a member of the Yun family actually escaped and hid in Black Cloud Academy, living under the nose of the Lord's residents. As far as I know, a few days ago, in order to capture the Yun family member, the dark operation of the Lord's residents killed 100,000 people. 1 level 8 martial artist and 5 level 7 martial artists died in the 100,000 mountains, but Yun Xiang went missing. That's why the Lord's residence has been so active recently. At this point, Xiao Yan looked at Zhang Xi meaningfully. This was because Zhang Xi was also in the 100,000 mountains at that time. With Zhang Xi's strength he could easily do this. At the side, Xiao Lin's expression was gloomy. He was very worried about Yun Xiang. However, he also knew that with his current strength, he could not do anything at all. Zhang Xi was very indifferent to this old man's suspicion. So what if he was suspicious? After that, Zhang Xi did not continue on this topic. He was concerned about the fallen god's land that Xiao Yan mentioned just now. The Yun family's Dao pattern secret technique came from there. Then he asked this question. Brother Jiang, you call yourself an adventurer, but you don't even know about the fallen god's land? That's the forbidden area of the entire Dao pattern continent. Xiao Lin was a little surprised. Child, don't talk nonsense. Xiao Yan hurriedly patted Xiao Lin's head. Zhang Xi smiled and shook his head. Of course I've heard of it, but I don't know the details. When he was searching souls earlier, he had obtained some information about the fallen god's land from the memories of the rank 7 warrior, but it was very brief. He only knew that the land of the fallen gods was located in the north of the battle pattern continent. It was separated from the Black Cloud territory by over 1 million territories. If one didn't become a Dao pattern cultivator, it would be hard for them to achieve this in their lifetime. This was also related to the fact that the Dao of weapon refinement in the Dao Tattoo continent was underdeveloped. It was very rare to see spirit artifacts like flying boats. Moreover, there was no inheritance of array formations here, so there was no teleportation array. This was something that he had been reminded of when he had accepted the mission. It was forbidden to use formations on the Dao Tattoo continent. Therefore, it was very difficult to cross such a long distance just by flying. On the other side, after Xiao Yan finished lecturing his grandson, he smiled at Zhang Xi and said, Sir, you are focused on cultivation. It is normal that you do not know about this. This was because the specific information about the fallen godland was considered a secret in the Dao Tattoo continent. Many people only knew that it was a forbidden area, but they didn't know the actual situation inside. My Xiao clan's ancestor once cultivated there, so I happen to know a little about it. This old man will be bold enough to show it off in front of Sir. Xiao Yan's tone was respectful. Li Mei's Wuxia whispers that in his opinion, with Zhang Xi's strength, he would definitely know about the situation in the fallen godland. This was because many two-mark Dao masters would choose to cultivate in the fallen god land after reaching a bottleneck in their cultivation. Now that Zhang Xi asked him this question, perhaps he just wanted to know more from him. It's fine. You can continue. Zhang Xi nodded. Therefore, Xiao Yan organized his thoughts and said, Sir, you should have heard of the extraterritorial demon race, right? Zhang Xi didn't bat an eyelid. Extraterritorial demon race? I am one of them. Xiao Yan smiled and said, It is said that it is very difficult for the extraterritorial demon race to descend on our continent. This is because in the endless void, there is a heaven and earth boundary set up by the gods. Countless years ago, the extraterritorial demon race paid a huge price to descend on the Dao Tattoo continent. They wanted to take over our world. At that time, the gods gathered and engaged in an earth-shattering war with the extraterritorial demon race. It is said that 10% of the Do Tattoo continent was shattered. In the end, we paid a terrible price to obtain victory and drive the extraterritorial demon race out. Since then, the extraterritorial demon race has not dared to invade us again. And the battlefield left behind by that war is the current fallen god land. Xiaoyan sighed. Beside him, the young Shaolin felt a sense of yearning. The War of the Gods was a legend of the ancient mythological era. Jiang Xi pretended to be surprised. It seemed that the strong people of the Do Tattoo continent had chosen to conceal their history. The War of the Gods? It was probably a purge of the Do Tattoo continent when the Purple Heaven sect was cleaning up the Third Heaven world. As for the talk of defeating the extraterritorial demon race, it was a little exaggerated. Any perfected lord from Purple Heaven sect would be able to suppress this mainland. What is so special about the fallen god land? Jiang Xi asked again. It is filled with evil aura that can affect one's mind. If one's will is not strong enough, they will lose their mind and become crazy after entering the fallen god land, Xiaoyan said solemnly. Jiang Xi could understand this point. After the death of an immortal Dao strong person, their Dao aura would not dissipate. In addition to the resentment, anger and other negative emotions before death, it could indeed form a strong evil aura. Sir, since you are a two-mark dosher, you should know that fusing with the Dao pattern blood crystal requires not only a strong body, but also an extremely strong will, Xiaoyan said. Jiang Xi nodded. The Yun family's Dao pattern secret technique had mentioned this point. Although the fallen god land is extremely dangerous, it is also an excellent place to train one's will. Some strong Dao pattern cultivators would go to the fallen god land to train their will in order to fuse with more Dao pattern blood crystals. It is not only these strong people. For countless years, countless ordinary cultivators have risked their lives to enter the fallen god land. This is because if they are lucky, they can obtain the Dharma treasures and cultivation methods left behind by the gods. Take the Yun family's ancestor for example. He was such a lucky person. Unfortunately, he did not keep his luck and instead became a disaster. Xiaoyan sighed in the end. Jiang Xi was silent. The strong preyed on the weak everywhere. Next, Xiaoyan chatted with Jiang Xi about some other details. He also asked Jiang Xi about his purpose in coming to the Black Cloud territory. Jiang Xi, of course, said that he wanted to travel around and see different sceneries. These words made Shaolin extremely envious. After the grandfather and grandson pair left, Jiang Xi felt that he had gained a lot. This was because the mission introduction did not mention the fallen god land. He guessed that the gods should be existences in the Tribulation Transcendent Realm. Since it was the place where many Tribulation Transcendent Realm powerhouses had fallen, there should be good things. The Yun family's Dao pattern secret technique came from there. If I need to train my will in the future, I can consider going there. However, right now, the most important thing was to find a way to obtain the Dao pattern blood crystal. After another half a month, Jiang Xi quietly left the quiet courtyard. At the same time, he erased all traces of himself. Chapter 380. The Lord's Mansion of the Black Cloud Territory was located in the central area of the Black Cloud Territory. It occupied a large area like a city within a city. At this time, in a gloomy prison of the Lord's Mansion, there was a row of warriors and ordinary people kneeling. They had different expressions: anger, despair, confusion, helplessness, and many were cursing. A team of Dark Unit warriors above level 7 were indifferently searching their souls. Soon, the prison fell into a dead silence. Everyone had died because of the soul search. The one in charge of this prison was a one-armed level 9 warrior. He said coldly, "No? Next batch." There were thousands of people in each batch. With their speed of soul searching, they could search tens of thousands of people in an hour. When night fell, the one-armed level 9 warrior came to Lord Changliang's residence and reported the results of the day's soul searching. Lord Changliang was a two-striped Do master, the top warrior of the Black Cloud territory. After listening to the work report, his slightly feminine face frowned slightly. How many families and forces are left that are related to the Yun family? 95 families, 134 forces, a total of 81 million people. Now there are 6 million people left who have not been soul searched. The one-armed level 9 warrior did a good job. That remnant of the Yun family could hide under my nose for 10 years. There must be someone who helped her. Continue, leave no one alive. Changliang said slowly. The lives of so many people were like grass in his eyes. As long as he could find the Yun family's Dao pattern secret technique, even if he killed 1 or 200 million, it was worth it. That unknown two-striped Dao master, are there any clues? Changliang asked again. No. This has to be done in secret. The remnant of the Yun family is very likely to be saved by this person. Once you find out about him, inform me immediately. Changliang urged. Yes. At this time, a voice came from outside the door. Lord, the daughter of the Chao family has been sent as requested. Changliang's feminine face showed an anxious smile. He said to the one-armed level 9 warrior, you can leave first. Whoosh, suddenly, a breeze blew and a young man in black armor appeared in front of the two. It was Jiang Xiaiwat. The one-armed level 9 warrior didn't have time to shout. Pucci, with a flash of sword light, the level 9 warrior comparable to the late gold core stage was cut into two. How dare you? Looks like it's you. Changliang punched out. He was a 2-mark dosher, and his body was comparable to a middle-grade spirit weapon. Changliang was confident that even a 2-line dosher of the same level would not dare to receive his punch head-on. Resist. Jiang Xiai smiled. He reached out and grabbed the man's neck as if he was grabbing a chicken. Chi! At the same time, the sword pierced through his opponent's dantian, crippling his cultivation. His body was comparable to a middle-grade spiritual weapon. The sword in his hand was a supreme-grade spirit weapon. After that, he didn't stop. His figure flashed and disappeared. Boom! Boom! 2 loud sounds rang out. Only then did the 2 one-striped doja in charge of the guards rush over. Seeing the corpse on the ground, their expressions changed. Sir Lord is gone. Whoosh! In the next moment 2 more figures appeared. One of them was a man in silver armor, who looked very similar to Changliang. The other person was a white-robed young man. Greetings, General. The 2 one-striped fighters hurriedly saluted the silver-armored man. It's the aura of a 2-line dosher. The white-robed young man said. Chase! The silver-armored man shouted in a low voice, his face full of anger. The 2 of them rushed into the sky. The 2 one-striped doja were left behind, extremely shocked. General is still in the Black Cloud territory. Didn't he say that he was going to the Fire Rune Temple to cultivate? He probably hasn't set off yet. If I'm not wrong, the white-robed young man is the priest of the Fire Rune Temple. He's here to pick up the general. The silver-armored man and the white-robed young man exuded a powerful aura as they searched the entire Black Cloud territory. However, after searching for a while, they didn't find anything. Brother Yang, I'm really sorry. I didn't expect this to happen. It seems that I can't go to the Fire Rune Temple to cultivate for the time being. The silver-armored man's face was very ugly. It was Sir Yin Tua who helped you to go to the Fire Rune Temple to cultivate. I can wait for a while. The most important thing now is to find your brother. The white-robed young man said. And this murderer is too arrogant. Even if the temple knows that you are wasting time, they won't say anything. He added. Thank you. The silver-armored man's face was tense. Now that his brother was captured by an unknown Dao pattern cultivator, and he didn't know whether he was dead or alive, he was in a bad mood. The opportunity to cultivate in the Fire Rune Temple was fought for by his master, Sir Yin Tua. Unless it was a last resort, he naturally didn't want to give up. The white-robed priest's words made him heave a sigh of relief. When the 2 of them were searching just now, they didn't hide their powerful aura. Many of the Dao pattern cultivators in the Black Cloud territory were stunned by their auras. That's the Lord's brother Chun Kai? Didn't he already go to the Fire Rune Temple to cultivate? The other person seems to be the white-robed priest of the temple. In a mansion, Xiao Yin was very surprised. The white-robed priest was a 3-striped doling spirit powerhouse and was extremely powerful. Just what had happened to make these 2 experts so furious? For some reason, Jiang Xi's figure suddenly appeared in his mind. At this time, above the clouds that shrouded the Battle Rune continent, outside the array barrier, a flying boat quietly stopped in the starry sky. My cultivation, you actually crippled my cultivation. Changliang was shocked and furious. Then he saw the surrounding environment clearly. It was actually in the starry sky. He looked at Jiang Xi in shock. Outside the barrier. You are an extraterritorial demon. Jiang Xi smiled and didn't talk nonsense with him. He pressed his hand on the top of Chang Liang's head. Soul search. A moment later, the smile on Jiang Xi's face disappeared. As expected, the strength of the Lord's mansion is not as simple as it seems. Just now, when he was in the Lord's mansion, he caught Chang Liang with his sharp intuition. He sensed a dangerous smell. So he hurriedly left and flew directly outside the battle-rune continent's barrier. From Chang Liang's memory, he learned that there was a three-striped doling spirit general in the Lord's mansion, and this general was Chang Liang's brother. However, a three-striped doling spirit is only equivalent to a primordial spirit cultivator. I'm not afraid of a real fight. Where did the danger come from? Jiang Xi frowned and pondered, then shook his head. In short, this operation was still a success. Then he took Chang Liang's storage magic treasure. Although the battle rune continent's Qi refinement Dao was backward, there were still storage magic treasures. As a lord, it wasn't surprising that Chang Liang had a storage magic treasure. After Jiang Xi simply refined the storage magic treasure, he took out a blood-red crystal that was only the size of a fingernail. After seeing this item, a strong desire appeared in his body. My luck is not bad. He really has extra Dao pattern blood crystals on him. According to Chang Liang's memory, his brother Chang Kai should also have a Dao pattern blood crystal on him. Chapter 381. Jiang Xi shook his head and chuckled. He put aside the idea of killing and robbing for now. It was not the time to think about this. He had to improve his strength first. After that, he did not enter the battle pattern continent. The flying boat continued to stop in the starry sky. He grabbed the Dao pattern blood crystal and began to refine it. What's so magical about this item? My body has a strong desire just by looking at it. With this thought in mind, Jiang Xi's spiritual consciousness touched the fingernail-sized blood-red crystal. Boom! His head felt like it had exploded. A very strong chaotic will surged into his mind and attacked his consciousness. With such a strong chaotic intent, the spiritual consciousness of a golden core cultivator would have collapsed immediately. Jiang Xi's expression changed slightly. Of course, he suppressed it easily. Other than the spiritual consciousness of a perfected nascent soul cultivator, there was another reason. There was an image of self-visualization in his mind. Just now, before he could even use his spiritual sense, the image of Guanji had automatically emitted a golden light to suppress the chaotic will. I didn't expect the peacock visualization to be useful here. Jiang Xi was surprised. He had obtained this visualization technique on Earth. It was an inheritance from the Buddhist ruins on Earth. Taoist Ge had reminded him not to expose the peacock visualization technique easily. Therefore, he had never used the image of self-visualization in his mind for a long time. However, he did not stop cultivating the image of self-visualization because it was the core of his spiritual consciousness. Every time his cultivation level increased, the image of self-visualization would also strengthen. Is this chaotic intent an evil thought? Is that why the image of self-visualization suppressed it? Jiang Xi was puzzled. He quickly put this thought aside because the Dao pattern blood crystal had turned into liquid and seeped into his body like blood. The next moment, a circle of 3 colored Dao patterns appeared on his body and kept circling. The strange thing was that his body realm did not increase. However, he could feel that his body was undergoing some kind of deep change. It was as if he had formed a connection with the universe. In other words, his affinity with the heaven and earth Dao had increased. After a while, the deep change in his body ended. The circle of 3 colored Dao patterns merged back into Jiang Xi's body. You have successfully merged with the Dao pattern blood crystal. Experience plus 100 million. The prompt from the experience panel unexpectedly rang in Jiang Xi's mind. Jiang Xi was stunned. What was going on? Fusing with Dao pattern blood crystals can also increase experience points. Moreover, he had added so much EXP in one go. This was something he had never experienced before. This item is truly miraculous. No wonder the Purple Heaven sect listed the Dao pattern blood crystal as the mission objective. Jiang Xi calmed his astonished emotions and continued to try to increase the level of the Dao pattern art. Although he had expected this, he was still pleasantly surprised by the result. This time there were no more cracks on his body. The limit of his Dao had increased. In just half a day the upgrade was completed. This time there was a change in the realm of his body. 2 3-color Dao patterns appeared on Jiangxi's body and merged with him. 2 lines Do Shi. Fu Jiangxi directly passed through the flying ship's array formation and floated in the starry sky. Then he chose a meteorite fragment not far in front of him as his target and rushed over. Boom! The meteorite fragment with a diameter of nearly 1,000 kilometers was directly shattered. Very strong. Jiangxi praised himself. It was indeed very strong. Just the strength of his body had surpassed a mid-grade spiritual artifact. In other aspects such as strength, speed, defense, toughness, agility and so on there were huge changes. He looked at the experience points panel. Frowny face Dao pattern technique. 2 lines 1,300,000,000. My Dao technique is at the level of the Dao of heaven and earth. The 2 lines just now were formed from the Dao domain so it can continue to be upgraded. It shouldn't be able to reach 3 lines, but the realm of my body will definitely increase a lot. 300 million EXP upgrade will take a lot of time this time. With this thought, Jiangxi still used his clone on the first moon of Earth to refine the spiritual fruit. Oh, time passed, and the entire Black Cloud territory was in a state of panic. Because Lord Chongliang's lifestone had shattered, the news of his death had spread throughout the Black Cloud territory. The Lord's younger brother, Black Cloud General Cheng Kai, had returned. He was furious. He slaughtered the remaining 4.6 million people related to the Yun family. Then he mobilized all kinds of forces to find the murderer. However, after searching for half a month there was no result. Cheng Kai didn't know the motive of the murderer to kill his brother. But he knew that after so many days, the possibility of finding the murderer was not high. Damn it! The anger in Cheng Kai's heart could not be quelled. In this generation of the Cheng family, there were only 2 brothers. Now that his brother was dead, and he had to go to the Fire Pattern Temple to cultivate, then the Black Cloud territory would have to be handed over. In another part of the Black Cloud territory, Xiaoyan passed by the house where Jiangxi lived. After carefully probing, he found that there was still no one inside. The Lord is dead, and Lord Jiang has disappeared for half a month. Xiaoyan's heart was still filled with shock. He was 60% sure that Lord Jiang was the one who did this. It's a good death, a wonderful death. Lord Jiang has done a good deed. He lightly hummed a tune and strode away. Of course he wouldn't say these guesses out loud. The Cheng brothers had done evil in the Black Cloud territory for many years and plundered countless cultivation resources. In the entire Black Cloud territory, whether it was an ordinary person or a Dao pattern cultivator, everyone hated the brothers. What Xiaoyan didn't notice was that on a tall building in the distance, Jiangxi was leisurely drinking wine. His every move was under Jiangxi's surveillance. This old man is quite alert. Jiangxi smiled and shook his head. This was also related to the fact that he didn't deliberately hide his identity. Of course he came back for the Dao pattern blood crystal. The day before yesterday, his body's tolerance for Dao had reached the limit again. Dao pattern technique. 2 patterns 178. 25 million/300 million. Looking at the progress, he was still far from a 3-pattern doling spirit. However, Jiangxi was still very satisfied with the effect of the upgrade. This was because the Dao patterns on his body were cultivated from 3 Dao patterns. Although his body was still a 2-pattern doling master, it was similar to a 3-pattern doling spirit. Its strength was already equivalent to a high-grade spirit weapon. This time, even a supreme-grade spirit weapon could only cause slight damage to him. He had also tested it. He used the supreme-grade spirit weapon, Killing Shadow Sword, to slash his body a few times. If he didn't use the power of Dao, he could only make a few cuts. Of course, this also depended on the level of the opponent. If a Dao integration stage expert used a supreme-grade spirit weapon, he would definitely be killed with 1 slash. The comparison just now was only applicable to opponents who were definitely not stronger than him. 2-pattern doling master. I have already completed the second goal of the mission. However, my body is still not strong enough. I need to continue improving, so I need more Dao pattern blood crystals. Chapter 382. Jiang Xi's target was naturally Cheng Liang's brother. After my body realm improved, the feeling of danger disappeared. However, Chang Kai is a three-striped fighting spirit, which is equivalent to a primordial soul stage cultivator. I still can't underestimate him. Up until now, Jiang Xi had never really fought with a cultivator who was not at the primordial soul stage. A three-striped fighting spirit was not only equivalent to a primordial soul stage cultivator, but its body was also comparable to a high-grade spiritual weapon. Although he used a top-grade spiritual weapon, he did not have absolute confidence in breaking the defense of a three-striped fighting spirit. Just as he compared before, an opponent of the same level could not break his defense with a top-grade spiritual weapon. If he were to break someone else's defense, it would be more or less the same. Moreover, he had once sensed a dangerous aura in the Lord's mansion. Intuition told Jiang Xi that the danger should not come from Chang Kai. Therefore, he became more cautious this time. After returning to the battle pattern continent, Jiang Xi investigated the surroundings of the Lord's mansion for a long time before he decided to make a move. Late at night, Lord's mansion. General Chang Kai exuded a tyrannical aura. In front of him was a ground full of corpses, emitting a strong smell of blood. Damn it! No matter how many people he killed, he could not vent the anger in his heart. Because the white-robed priest of the fire pattern temple would not wait for him for too long, at most a month. Now half a month had passed. If he could not find the murderer, he could only give up on revenge. The opportunity to cultivate in the fire pattern temple was extremely precious. If he missed this opportunity, the next time would be 1,000 years later. What made Chang Kai most angry was that he chose to cultivate in the fire pattern temple. Not only did he give up revenge, but he also gave up the Black Cloud territory. Therefore, no matter what, this was a great loss for him. If I find you, I will destroy your soul. Chang Kai's tyrannical aura surged. Swoosh! Suddenly, a sharp sword light broke through the darkness and stabbed directly at him. Taking the initiative to come to me? How arrogant! Chang Kai shouted angrily. A mace appeared in his hand, and he smashed it towards the sword that had ambushed him. Clang! The sword and mace collided violently, producing a dazzling light. The powerful impact swept hundreds of kilometers, and the entire Black Cloud territory felt it. Two figures, one in front and one behind, rushed out of the Lord's mansion and stood in the night sky. Chang Kai's body emitted a fiery red Dao pattern. His aura was like a rainbow, and he looked like a god fiend. On the other side was a black-haired youth. His body was emitting Dao patterns of 3 different colors. It was a little strange, but his aura wasn't any weaker than Chang Kai's. Therefore, in the eyes of outsiders, he was also a 3-striped Dou Ling. Someone attacked the monarch's mansion again? Who is it? Many Dao pattern cultivators saw the battle in the sky above the Lord's mansion. One-line Doge Xiao Yan's face was also filled with shock. Others might not recognize the black-haired youth, but he did. It really is Sir Jiang. He is actually a 3-striped Dou Ling. At the edge of the Black Cloud territory, in an inconspicuous house, Yun Xiang, who had changed her appearance, also recognized the black-haired youth. Yes, benefactor. Could it be that Lord Changliang was also killed by benefactor? Yun Xiang was filled with gratitude. That Chang Kai is a 3-striped Dou spirit. Will N public enemy be able to defeat him? She was also worried. At this moment her expression changed. Not good. In the sky above the Lord's mansion, another white-robed youth appeared. His body also emitted a fiery red Dao pattern. It was the white-robed priest of the Fire Rune Shrine. 3-striped Dou Ling experts. In the sky above the Lord's mansion, other than the Fire Dao, there are 2 other unknown Dao techniques. So it is a heresy. When the white-robed priest saw the Dao pattern on Jiang Xi's body, his eyes were filled with coldness. Then he deserves to die. Chang Kai's killing intent was boiling. Jiang Xi's expression also became serious. The appearance of the white-robed priest made him understand the source of the danger he sensed previously. The aura of this white-robed priest was very close to that of a 4-striped Dou Zong. In other words, this was a Dao pattern cultivator at the peak of the primordial soul stage. However, when he searched Lord Changliang's soul last time, he did not get any information about this white-robed priest. This was a hidden expert. Looks like I have to use all my strength. Jiang Xi was prepared to use Dao techniques to attack. Now the Tao technique realm and the realm of his physical body were his strongest means. After making the decision, the Tao of heaven and earth instantly descended. The Tao of sword, the Tao of fire, and the Tao of gale. Tao fusion technique. After the Tao techniques fused together, the strange power covered his body and the sword. His aura changed in an instant. Chang Kai and the white-robed priest's expression changed. However, they could not figure out what exactly happened to Jiang Xiai. In fact, it was not their fault that they could not recognize him. The legend of the extraterritorial demon clan in the Battle Room continent had been around for tens of thousands of years. Other than the true experts, many people had only heard of the extraterritorial demon clan but did not know what kind of methods they used. Therefore, the two of them did not recognize Jiang Xi's true identity and only thought that Jiang Xi was a heresy. No matter how much you change, you are still a 3-striped Do Ling. I don't believe you can become a 4-striped Do Zong. Chang Kai and the white-robed priest attacked at the same time. Chang Kai's mace was covered by the fiery red Tao pattern and suddenly became 10,000 feet long. Moreover, its weight seemed to have increased. Boom! The mace was like a towering mountain as it smashed towards Jiang Xi. The white-robed priest's body was like a rainbow and his fiery fist was like a meteor. He was also incomparably tyrannical as he approached Jiang Xi. My sword is different from before. Jiang Xi was very calm. Sword light flashed as he took the initiative to meet the attack. After cultivating the Tao pattern, his strength had increased further. Whoosh! The most obvious thing now was that his speed had increased by nearly half. He was even faster than the perfected primordial soul white-robed priest. In a battle between experts, if one's speed was faster, one would be able to seize the initiative. Therefore, Jiang Xi relied on his speed to dodge the attacks of the two. At the same time, his long sword approached Chang Kai and the white-robed priest first. With the support of the Tao fusion technique, the supreme-grade spirit artifact killer shadow sword directly cut through space and landed on Chang Kai's body. My body is a superior-grade spirit artifact. You can't. Although Chang Kai was shocked by Jiang Xi's speed, he was also very confident in his body. The next moment, he felt as if his body was missing something. Intense pain came. He was shocked to discover that his left hand was broken. What? Impossible! Chang Kai's expression changed drastically. This was a superior-grade spirit artifact body. Chang Kai, be careful. The white-robed priest's anxious voice sounded in his ear. Whoosh! A strong wind blew. A sword light once again cut through space and arrived in an instant. Chang Kai was a 3-striped battle spirit after all. His reaction was very fast. He held the mace with one hand and directly smashed it out. However, he missed this time. The sword light was like a bubble and suddenly dissipated. The sword light whistled and pierced through Chang Kai's forehead. The power of the Tao pattern exploded, shattering his primordial spirit. Chang Kai did not understand two things until he died. Why was it that when the club smashed down it was only an illusion? Why was his defense so weak? Chapter 383. What Chang Kai didn't understand even in death, the white-robed priest saw it clearly. He saw with his own eyes that Jiang Xi used his extreme speed to transform his body into a series of phantoms. Then the longsword killed Chang Kai like a bolt of lightning. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. It was too fast. He wanted to save him, but he couldn't. The white-robed priest's expression turned grim. Just now, he thought that the two of them against Jiang Xi would be in a good position. Now, even if he had the strength of a 4-striped grandmaster, he wasn't confident that he could defeat Jiang Xi. Of course, the white-robed priest was confident that it would be difficult for Jiang Xi to defeat him. As for killing him, that was even more impossible. Kill him? Unless it was a 4-striped grandmaster. If Jiang Xi was a 4-striped grandmaster, he wouldn't have needed to ambush him. No matter what grudge you have with the Chung brothers, I advise you to surrender. Although the 5 sacred halls view you as heretics, they will still recruit cultivators who don't practice the 5 elements Tao. The white-robed priest suddenly said, "You're stalling for time?" Jiang Xi interrupted him. The white-robed priest's expression froze. "Don't play such tricks." Jiang Xi smiled. At the same time he attacked again. The sword turned into a green lotus, and countless rays of sword light shot out. The dazzling light covered the night sky. What kind of move is this? The white-robed priest was shocked. He didn't dare to be careless. He formed a fist seal with both hands, and fiery red runes gathered. A pair of fiery fists smashed into Jiang Xi's countless rays of sword light. Clang, clang, clang. His body was indeed strong, close to a top-grade spirit artifact. The rays of sword light landed on his body, leaving only small wounds. However, those were only a few hundred rays of sword light. Behind them, tens of thousands of rays of sword light whistled, carrying the might of heaven and earth. Soon, the wounds on the white-robed priest's body accumulated, and he was heavily injured. I've never seen such an attack. Where did he come from? The white-robed priest was shocked. He was a little afraid and wanted to retreat. If the Chung brothers died, then so be it. He didn't need to avenge them. The most fundamental reason why he had come to Black Cloud territory was because of Chung Kai's master, Yin Tuo. Retreat. However, before he retreated, he forcefully withstood Jiang Xi's sword light and once again clenched his fists to form a powerful fist print, preparing to counterattack. After that, he turned around and left. His figure was like a blazing bolt of lightning as he sped away. Trying to run? Jiang Xi's expression did not change at all. He was already prepared for this. The Dao pattern technique brought about a tyrannical body, while the Dao fusion technique brought about a powerful Dao attack. His body vanished from the spot, and in the blink of an eye, he caught up with the white-robed priest. He struck out with his sword. I am the priest of the Fire Rune Shrine. If you kill me, you will be hunted down. The white-robed priest shouted in horror. You're about to die, yet you're still so arrogant? Jiang Xi chuckled and did not show any mercy. The sword pierced through the white-robed priest's dantian and crippled his cultivation. Then, while his primordial spirit was dissipating, he pressed a hand on his head. Soul search. In just a moment, Jiang Xi's expression became dignified. The joy of victory had completely disappeared. He flipped open the white-robed priest's left hand. A communication bead was lying quietly in the priest's palm, indicating that a message was being sent. Then his figure flashed and he came to Chung Kai's corpse. From Chung Kai's palm he also found a communication bead. At this time, Chung Kai's communication bead also showed that someone had sent a message. Crack crack, Jiang Xi crushed the two communication beads. To be able to cultivate to the primordial spirit stage, no one is easy to deal with. The battle was so fierce, but these two still thought of sending the message. No wonder the white-robed priest wanted to stall for time. According to the white-robed priest's memory, Chung Kai's master Yin Tuo is a 4-mark Dozong, which is a Dao fusion stage cultivator. This guy sent my appearance to Yin Tuo. Fortunately, I acted in time and did not let him continue to send it to the Fire Rune Shrine. But Dao fusion stage, even if it is early Dao fusion stage, he is not someone I can deal with now. Jiang Xi took a deep breath. Because the white-robed priest was beside him, he did not have the chance to search Chung Kai's soul. Now it seemed that Chung Kai's master, Yin Tuo, definitely knew of his existence. Jiang Xi frowned again. He was not worried that his identity as an outsider would be exposed. Chung Kai and the white-robed priest did not recognize his true identity. After I came to the Dao pattern continent, the person I came into contact with the most was that young warrior Xiao Lin. I can just leave. Then, Xiao Lin and Xiao Yan will have to bear the brunt of Yin Tuo's anger. Jiang Xi did not doubt the methods of a Dao fusion stage cultivator. Perhaps Yin Tuo was already rushing here. Xiao Lin was a kind youth. If he was implicated and killed, he could not bear it. Whoosh! Jiang Xi disappeared into the night sky. At the same time, the Black Cloud region's warriors and Dao pattern cultivators were completely stunned. Who was that black-haired youth? He killed 2 3-striped Dao spirits alone. And one of them was the white-robed priest of the Fire Pattern Temple. Such a noble person was easily killed. This person was really audacious. Xiao Lin and his grandfather Xiao Yan were even more incredulous. The two of them came into contact with Jiang Xi the most. They never thought that Jiang Xi would be so powerful. While the grandfather and grandson were in shock, a figure suddenly appeared in front of them. Lord Jiang! Brother Jiang! The two of them exclaimed. Then they remembered something and quickly lowered their voices. Don't worry, they can't find me, Jiang Xi said with a smile. Brother Jiang, you're leaving? Shaolin realized something. Jiang Xi nodded and told him his worries and plans. That's how it is. Chun Kai's master already knows what I look like. His disciple was killed by me, so he definitely won't let it go. You've come into contact with me, so I'm afraid you'll be implicated. Now I'll give you a choice. Leave the Black Cloud region with me. Of course, it's fine if you don't leave, but it'll be difficult to keep your life. Four-Stripe Dozong. No wonder the Chung brothers were able to dominate the Black Cloud region for so many years. Xiaoyan sighed. Then he said seriously, Lord Jiang, take Shaolin away. Grandfather, you're not leaving with me. Shaolin was anxious. Of course he was willing to leave. Xiaoyan laughed. Silly boy, this is your opportunity. Why should I get involved? And if I leave, what will happen to our Xiao family? Shaolin's eyes were red. He was not a reckless youth. He liked to think silently since he was young. So, he instantly understood what his grandfather meant. The Xiao family was considered a mid-upper class family in the Black Cloud region. There were more than 20,000 people. If the two of them left, the anger of the Four-Stripe Dozong would definitely be transferred to the 20,000 people of the Xiao family. Chapter 384. The grandfather and grandson were reluctant to part. Jiang Xi watched from the side and did not interrupt them. He only had some friendship with Shaolin and Xiaoyan, and did not know the rest of the Xiao family. Therefore, he could not bring everyone from the Xiao family away. Seeing that it was about time, he said to Xiaoyan, I will use a spiritual sense technique on you and erase the memory of our meeting today. If you are lucky, you should be able to survive. Thank you, Lord Jiang. Xiaoyan hurriedly thanked him. Jiang Xi smiled and used his spiritual sense. Shaolin and Xiaoyan fell into a deep sleep at the same time. A one-pattern doja was equivalent to a golden core perfected cultivator. With his cultivation, he could easily erase Xiaoyan's memory by using a spiritual sense technique. Of course, he could not erase too much. Otherwise, it could easily cause the other party's spiritual sense to collapse and they would die immediately. After doing all this, Jiang Xi grabbed the unconscious Shaolin and disappeared without alerting anyone in the Xiao family mansion. After an unknown amount of time, Shaolin woke up from his deep sleep and his eyes were filled with confusion. How did I fall asleep? He had already forgotten everything that had just happened. At that moment, outside the formation barrier that enveloped the Do Tattoo continent, a supreme-grade flying ship was shuttling through the starry sky, flying toward the place where the Do Tattoo continent's fallen god. Jiang Xi sat cross-legged on the deck of the flying ship, and beside him was the sleeping Shaolin. According to the white-robed priest's memories, the Do Tattoo continent also has flying spirit weapons. That Yin Tua is a four-pattern dozong, which is equivalent to the unification stage. The possibility of him having a flying spirit weapon is very high. However, there are large amounts of cosmic dust, star fragments, and meteorite fragments in the Do Tattoo continent's starry sky. Even if a flying spirit weapon like a flying ship has the ability to fly at light speed, it does not have enough space to accelerate to light speed. It can only fly at sublight speed. Yin Tua City, which was ruled by Yin Tua, was a main city of the Do Tattoo continent. The territory under its jurisdiction was huge, with the largest diameter of 1 billion kilometers. Black Cloud territory was only one of the main cities. If Yin Tua had a flying spirit weapon, even if he flew at sublight speed, he could reach Black Cloud territory in an hour. Shaolin can pass through the formation barrier with me, but Yin Tua can't come out. Thus, flying outside of the Do pattern continent is the safest option. Jiang Xi made full use of this advantage. He used a wisp of his spiritual sense to control the flying boat. At the same time, he flipped his hand and took out 2 storage magic treasures. Now I can organize my spoils of war and peace. This is Chun Kai's. I wonder how many Dao pattern blood crystals he has. Soon his spiritual sense was simply refined. Jiang Xi smiled, and 2 blood-red crystals appeared in his hand. It was one more than he had expected. Of course, this was not enough to surprise Jiang Xi. Next, he refined the white-robed priest's storage magic treasure and took out a brocade box. He opened the box and saw 9 Dao pattern blood crystals lying quietly inside. This was an unexpected surprise. Jiang Xi already knew about it when he searched his soul earlier. This white-robed priest was ordered by a four-striped dozong of the Fire Rune Shrine to bring Chang Kai to the Fire Rune Shrine to train. He would also give the 9 Dao pattern blood crystals to Chang Kai's master, Yin Tuo. Risk and reward are proportional. Taking such a big risk, the reward is also very high. Unexpected reward. Jiang Xi put away the 11 Dao pattern blood crystals, and then organized the 2 storage magic treasures. He also found a lot of valuable things and a lot of cultivation resources. Jiang Xi left for less than an hour. Black Cloud Territory, Overlord's Mansion. A young cultivator in silver armor exuded a killing intent that seemed to freeze into ice. It was Yin Tuo, the city lord of Yin Tuo City, a powerful four-striped dozong who had just arrived. Master, the chief steward of the Overlord's Mansion is here. A white-haired young man walked in from outside and bowed respectfully. Beside him, the chief steward, who was only a Dao pattern dozong, trembled as he knelt on the ground. Greetings, Lord Yin Tuo. He was terrified because the Overlord was dead. The Overlord's brother was also dead. What frightened him the most was that he just found out that the Overlord's brother was actually the disciple of this powerful cultivator. This is the murderer. I'll give you 1 day to find all the people who have been in contact with him. Yin Tuo's face was cold as he threw a portrait to the chief steward. The portrait was of Jiang Xi. Yes. The chief steward quickly retreated and went to find people. Yin Tuo looked at the night sky as the killing intent in his heart grew stronger. I'd like to see what ability you have to dare to kill my disciple. Among the many disciples, he was most optimistic about Chang Kai. Otherwise, he wouldn't have spent so much to fight for the precious opportunity to cultivate in the Fire Rune Temple for Chang Kai. But now, Chang Kai was killed before he could go to the Fire Rune Temple. Master, that white-robed priest is also dead. I'm afraid the Fire Rune Temple will investigate. The white-haired young man said worriedly. Let them investigate. Mentioning this, Yin Tuo was even angrier. Because the Dao pattern blood crystal that he applied for from the Fire Rune Temple was on the white-robed priest. Now it was the murderer who took advantage of it. Jiang Xi piloted the flying ship and flew at sublight speed for 15 hours before arriving at the starry sky 10 billion kilometers away from the Black Cloud Territory. Let's stop here. He passed through the formation barrier and re-entered the Battle Rune continent. He could see a huge city on the ground below. When he arrived at the city gate, he woke Shaolin up. Brother Jiang. Shaolin was still a little confused. At that moment he saw the name of the huge city in front of him and was stunned. Feng River Territory? He had never heard of it. This is the territory of Blue Smoke City. It should be thousands of territories away from the Black Cloud Territory. Jiang Xi smiled. Thousands of territories. Shaolin's eyes widened. A territory was tens of millions of kilometers. Thousands of territories, that was at least 10 billion kilometers. I came to another main city after sleeping? Shaolin felt a little dizzy. The distance was too far. Even his grandfather, who was a one-striped doja, would have to spend decades to go to another main city. Brother Jiang, how long have I slept? He took a deep breath and asked. Not much. Only 15 days. That's good. It took you half a month to travel so far. Shaolin calmed down. If he had come so far in just 1 day, it would be too scary. He did not ask why Jiang Xi brought him here. He believed that Jiang Xi would not harm him. Then the two of them entered the Feng River Territory. The martial artist forces in the Black Cloud Territory were mainly academies and families. The Feng River Territory, on the other hand, was filled with martial artist sections. Jiang Xi quickly found a sect with a decent scale but was not very famous. It was the Truewood sect. The sect master of the Truewood sect was also a two-striped doja. He might not be enough in front of Jiang Xi, but in the Feng River Territory he was definitely one of the strongest. When he saw Jiang Xi, he quickly said respectfully, "Greetings, sir. You're clear about what I just said through spiritual sense transmission, right?" Riverward asked. Chapter 385. On the way here, Jiang Xi had already sent a voice transmission to the Truewood sect's sect master in advance. Don't worry, sir. In the future, no one will dare to bully Shaolin in Fenghe territory. The true Wuxia sect master said as he patted his chest. I owe you a favor this time. When I return from my cultivation, you will definitely be rewarded, Zhang Xiai said with an indifferent expression. Thank you, sir. The true Wuxia sect master was very excited. Not long ago, he received a voice transmission from Zhang Xiai, asking him to help take care of a rank 4 warrior. What he did not expect was that Zhang Xiai was actually a 3-striped fighting spirit. Usually, it was almost impossible to get a 3-striped fighting spirit to owe a favor. Now that he could get a favor from a 3-striped fighting spirit by taking care of someone, of course he was willing to do it. He would be willing to take care of 100 or even 1,000 rank 4 warriors, let alone a single one. Zhang Xiai also understood this principle. Just like in the primal universe, a single sentence from a nascent soul powerhouse could make a nascent soul powerhouse follow suit. After that, he brought Shaolin to a side hall of the True Wood sect and waved his hand to set up a restriction that isolated spiritual senses. Shaolin, the place I'm going to next is very dangerous. You can cultivate in the True Wood sect for the time being. Here are some cultivation resources I've prepared for you. It's enough to support you until you become a 1-striped fighting spirit. If you work harder, it's not impossible for you to become a 2-striped fighting spirit. Of course, whether you can become a 3-striped fighting spirit will depend on your luck. Zhang Xiai took out a storage ring and handed it to Shaolin. It was a simple statement, but it left Shaolin stunned. Who exactly was Big Brother Jiang? 1-striped fighting spirit? 2-striped fighting spirit? 3-striped fighting spirit? It sounded like those were nothing in Big Brother Jiang's eyes and could be easily achieved. Shaolin took the ring with shock and refined it. A rank 4 warrior was equivalent to an early-stage spirit vessel warrior, and also had a spiritual sense. This storage ring was not of a very high grade, so he easily refined it. After seeing the items in the storage space, Shaolin was very excited. There were supreme-grade spirit stones, spirit items, Dao pattern secret techniques, and even a Dao pattern blood crystal. There were too many. The value of these things was 100 times, no 1,000 times more than the wealth that the Shao clan had accumulated over thousands of years. Remember, don't let anyone know what's inside, Zhang Xiai warned. Don't worry, Big Brother Jiang. Shaolin nodded excitedly. Zhang Xiai smiled and spoke to the sect master of the True Wood sect. At the same time, he gave the other party some magic treasures as a reward. After doing all that, he left the area. Shaolin was still a teenager after all, and it was his first time being so far away from home. After Zhang Xiai left, he was the only one left in the True Wood sect. He was unfamiliar with the place and the people. Therefore, he was still homesick and worried about his grandfather's safety. However, he knew that following Big Brother Jiang out was the greatest opportunity he had ever encountered in his life. Therefore, he quickly pushed these emotions to the bottom of his heart and began to cultivate diligently. On the other hand, Zhang Xiai did not actually leave immediately. His spirit sense had been watching Shaolin the whole time. After observing all that, he nodded lightly. His efforts had not been in vain. Those spirit stones and spirit items were the leftovers from the storage magic treasures of Chang Kai and the white-robed priest. 2 3-striped fighting spirits equivalent to the primordial soul stage had accumulated a considerable amount of wealth. The Dao pattern secret technique was obtained from the soul search of the white-robed priest. It was considered top-notch. The people of the Dao pattern continent are all very talented due to the environment. With these cultivation resources, as long as Shaolin is diligent, he will definitely become a 2-striped fighting master in the future. As for becoming a 3-striped fighting spirit, he only gave Shaolin 1 Dao pattern blood crystal. It was definitely not enough. That was why he said that it would depend on Shaolin's luck. After that, Zhang Xiai observed the situation of the True Wood sect. After confirming that there were no problems, he left for real and returned to the Dao pattern continent's boundary. The flying ship quietly floated in the starry sky. Zhang Xiai sat cross-legged on the deck, deep in thought. In fact, he had already completed all his missions in the Dao pattern continent. 1. Obtain a Dao pattern blood crystal, reward 10,000 points. 2. Become a Dao pattern cultivator, 2-striped fighting master, reward 100,000 points. There were 2 mission objectives. The mission would be considered a success if he completed the first one. He still had 10 Dao pattern blood crystals, and his Dao pattern technique had already reached 2-striped. Because he had refined 3 Dao techniques, his body was comparable to a 3-striped fighting spirit. After thinking about it, Jiang Xi decided to stay in the Dao pattern continent for a while. The Dao pattern blood crystal is a key item for cultivating Dao pattern secret techniques. I have to get more back this time. Otherwise, I don't know if I will have the chance to come back again. Also, the Fallen God land hides a huge secret. The Yun family's Dao pattern secret technique came from there. I have to go and take a look. Let's not think about that for now. I have to raise my body to the limit first. He shook his head and took out a Dao pattern blood crystal. He then began to refine and absorb it. The fingernail-sized blood-red crystal turned into blood and merged with his body. Fuck. The next moment, Jiang Xi's expression changed. The chaotic intent this time was more than 10 times stronger than before. Roar. Kill. Kill. Roar. He could even hear all kinds of furious roars. They were frenzied and bloodthirsty. Jiang Xi's breathing became hurried, and his eyes turned red. His heart was filled with all kinds of anger and bloodthirsty emotions. The chaotic intent was affecting his consciousness. In his mind, there was an image of himself that was exactly the same as his appearance. At this moment, it was constantly emitting streaks of golden light to suppress the intense chaotic intent. But this time, the effect wasn't as obvious. Don't try to affect me. Jiang Xi clenched his teeth and tried his best to remain calm. After some time, the intense chaotic intent gradually calmed down and was finally suppressed by the golden light emitted by the image of himself. Chapter 386. The Green Lotus Sword Dao had a total of 9 evolution processes. 1 lotus for lotuses, 100 lotuses, 1,000 lotuses. 10,000 lotuses, 1,000 lotuses, 100 lotuses for lotuses, 1 lotus. A green lotus represented a change. Jiang Xi had already comprehended the first 2 evolution processes, which were the 5 transformations of 1 lotus and 4 lotuses. In addition, he had comprehended the first 21 transformations of the 3rd evolution process, which was 100 lotuses. All these added up to a total of 26 transformations. Now, he was deducing and comprehending the 27th transformation. In the previous deduction, he could clearly feel that his comprehension of the 27th transformation had deepened. If there was a definite number, it would mean that the deduction efficiency had become twice as fast as before. In addition to the Lotus Sword Codex, the deduction efficiency has increased by 10 times. When the 2 are multiplied, it is 20 times. Jiang Xi was extremely excited. In this way, his Sword Dao deduction speed was almost the same as when he was cultivating in the ancient Dao source world. Of course, it couldn't be compared to the 100-fold deduction speed at the Green Lotus altar. If my body refines 2 Dao pattern blood crystals, it will be twice as fast. If I refine 3 crystals, it will be 3 times as fast. If I refine 4 crystals, it will be 4 times as fast. With this deduction, as long as I refine more Dao pattern blood crystals, I will be able to reach the 100-fold deduction speed sooner or later. Jiang Xi's eyes were filled with vigor. More importantly, the Dao art deduction efficiency increased by the Dao pattern blood crystals was permanent and applicable to all Dao arts. It wasn't like the melody of 10,000 swords and the Lotus Sword Codex. Once he completely comprehended them, he would lose the additional effect of deducing Sword Dao. At this moment, Jiang Xi understood more and more why the Dao pattern blood crystals could become the target of the Purple Heaven Sect's Danger Grade mission. It could increase the affinity of heaven and earth Dao arts. It was too powerful. Moreover, the Dao pattern blood crystals were the key to cultivating Dao pattern arts. Dao pattern arts were mystical secret arts that use Dao arts to refine the body. Jiang Xi took a deep breath and calmed his agitated emotions. First, I will raise the Dao pattern arts to the current body limit. He wasn't sure if he could refine the 2nd Dao pattern blood crystal, the tolerance of Dao arts would increase again, and his body would be able to reach the 3 pattern level. Next, Jiang Xi let his clone refine the spiritual fruits and increase the level of Dao pattern arts. Battle pattern continent, Black Cloud territory. The atmosphere in the Lord's mansion was extremely tense. A 4-line Dozong Intua stood in the Great Hall. 2 corpses lay in front of him. Both of them had died from soul searching. If Zhang Xi was here, he would recognize him. The two people who had died were the middleman who had bought the house in Black Cloud territory, and the original owner of the house. You found these two people in just one day? Yin Tua stared coldly at the Grand Steward of the Overlord's residence. The chief manager knelt on the ground and kowtowed, begging for mercy. Sir, please spare my life. The culprit is an outsider. There are very few people who have come into contact with him. Please give us one more day. We are still searching the entire city. Trash, you're all trash. Go out and put up a notice. If anyone knows who has been in contact with the murderer, they will be rewarded with 10 billion yuan. If anyone knows anything about the murderer, they will be rewarded with 100 billion yuan. Yin Tua still didn't punish the people from the Overlord's residence. After all, he didn't have many people here. It was impossible for him to do these things himself. Master, perhaps this person had been hiding outside the city before he made his move. He only entered the city when he made his move. The white-haired young man speculated. That's impossible. My spiritual sense found some traces in the Lord's mansion before this person attacked. Before he made his move, he had carried out a long and careful investigation of the Overlord's residence. This means that he had stayed in the city for a long time. Yin Tua said in a deep voice. It seems that this person is very cautious. The white-haired young man sighed. If I don't find this murderer, I won't be able to relieve the hatred in my heart. Now, those four-striped dozongs from the other main cities and those old fellows from the Fire Rune Temple are laughing at me. They are laughing at me. Yin Tua. A disciple of a four-striped dozong was killed by a nobody. Yin Tua suddenly laughed coldly. The white-haired young man was silent. His master was a four-striped dozong who had risen to power in the last 10,000 years. He had affected the interests of many people, so there were many people who were laughing at him. The warriors from the Overlord's residence were very fast. Bounty lists were spread all over the city in a very short time. Suddenly, the entire city was boiling with excitement. As long as they found someone who had been in contact with the murderer, they would be rewarded with 10 billion yuan. If they could provide definite information about the murderer, they would be rewarded with 100 billion yuan. Look, mobilize the whole family to look for him. At least 10 billion yuan. With this money I can exchange 10 women a day, no? I can even exchange 100 women a day. Look at your prospects. If I had that much money, I would have a chance to cultivate to a 9th-level warrior and earn more money. The whole city went crazy looking for the murderer. At the entrance of the Black Cloud Academy, Lian Hu also saw the bounty list. The portrait on it and the high reward number made his breathing quicken. Late at night the day before yesterday, in the battle above the Overlord's residence, only some powerful warriors and Dao pattern cultivators could see Zhang Xi's appearance clearly. Young martial artists like them could only see a blurry figure in black armor. Now, after seeing the portrait on the list, Lian Hu recognized it at a glance. It was Zhang Xi. In other words, as long as he went to the Overlord's residence now and told him the information he knew, as well as the relationship between Zhang Xi and the Shao family, he would be rewarded with at least 10 billion yuan. He clenched his fists and struggled in his heart. No, I can't go. Now we can confirm that Big Brother Zhang killed the Overlord and the General, and Shao Lin just disappeared yesterday. Maybe Big Brother Zhang took Shao Lin away, or maybe Big Brother Zhang was afraid of exposing himself so he killed Shao Lin. In Lian Hu's heart, the first possibility was the most likely. Although he did not have much contact with Zhang Xi, he knew that Zhang Xi did not have to kill people to silence them. Otherwise, Zhang Xi could have gotten rid of them back in the 100,000 mountains. Moreover, the Cheng brothers were people who deserved to be killed. If that's the case, Shao Lin got a great opportunity this time. Grandpa Shao helped me before. I can't betray them. I believe that even without this reward, I can become strong with my own talent. Lian Hu suppressed the desire in his heart. However, not everyone had his willpower. In the four-man warrior team that met Zhang Xi back then, besides Lian Hu and Shao Lin, there were two other young warriors from the Black Cloud Academy. Lian Hu also considered this point and hurriedly went to find the two of them. However, he pounced on empty air. Not good. Lian Hu's expression changed drastically, and he rushed to the Shao family's residence. The Black Cloud territory was very big. Even though Lien, who was a rank 5 warrior, it took him half an hour to reach the Xiao family's residence. However, before he reached the entrance of the Xiao family's residence, he saw from afar. A burly old man was forcefully taken away by the overlord's residence's people. The person in the lead was a white-haired youth. The ones leading the way were 2 young martial artists. Chapter 387. Grandpa Xiao is a one-striped doja. But he was powerless in front of that white-haired youth. Fang Yishixiang, those 2 bastards. Lien, whose heart was filled with anger. He was one step too late. The 2 of them probably don't know much. Xiao Lin once told me that he and Grandpa Xiao went to visit Brother Jiang. But that visit was very secretive and not many people know about it. If Xiao Lin didn't tell me, it would have been difficult for me to know. So, the possibility of Grandpa Xiao and Brother Jiang being involved is very small. Lien, who could only comfort himself like this. Damn it. Lien, who gritted his teeth and tried his best not to reveal his anger. Even though he kept comforting himself, he knew that it was very, very difficult for someone who was captured by the Lord's mansion to come out alive. What Lien who did not notice was that in the bustling crowd, there was an ordinary-looking girl who was also watching everything. It was Yun Xiang. She looked at the people from the Lord's mansion and the 2 young warriors with a murderous look in her eyes. Xiao Yan was brought to the Lord's mansion and he was terrified. That white-haired youth just now had only used one move to subdue him. Sir, I really don't know the specific identity of that Jiang Xi. I only went to see him once with my grandson. Oh right, my grandson just happened to go missing that day. It's very likely that he was also killed by this person. Xiao Yan tried his best to explain. The white-haired youth glanced at Yin Tu. Master, according to the statements of those 2 young warriors, this person's grandson, Xiao Lin, had the most contact with the murderer Jiang Xi. And Xiao Lin did indeed go missing the night before. Do you want to search Xiao Yan's soul now? It seems that this is a key witness. Use hypnosis, Yin Tu said softly. A soul search was fatal, but hypnosis would only hurt the mind but not the life. The white-haired youth, who was a 3-striped doe spirit, had no difficulty dealing with Xiao Yan, who was only a 1-striped doja. Xiao Yan, who was still trying to explain, suddenly lost his spirit under the hypnosis. Do you know Jiang Xi? Yes. Do you know Jiang Xi's background? I'm not sure. When was the last time you saw Jiang Xi? Late at night the day before yesterday. The white-haired young man was overjoyed. And then he quickly asked, where did you see him? Above the Lord's mansion. The smile on the white-haired youth's face disappeared. Many powerful martial artists and Dao pattern cultivators had witnessed the battle in the sky above the Lord's mansion late at night 2 days ago. In other words, Xiao Yan knew very little. The white-haired youth said, Master, it seems that the key lies with that young man, Xiao Lin. There are 2 possibilities. Jiang Xi took Xiao Lin away, or he chose to silence Xiao Lin in order not to expose himself. Yin Tu pondered and said, the first possibility is more likely. If it was just to silence people, with this person's strength, everyone who has seen him in the past few days would have been silenced. Keep Xiao Yan. I have a feeling that Jiang Xi or Xiao Lin will come back for him one day. Killing people was not the goal, but finding Jiang Xi, the murderer, was the ultimate goal. Time flew by and half a month passed quickly. A flying ship was quietly hovering in the starry sky of the Dou pattern continent. Jiang Xi was sitting cross-legged on the deck of the flying ship, not moving at all. Cultivating was also a form of solitude. Sitting for half a month like him was considered rare. For many cultivators with high cultivation bases, sitting for hundreds or even thousands of years was nothing out of the ordinary. Suddenly, 3 layers of 3-colored Dao patterns appeared on Jiang Xi's body. They kept shrinking and spiraling up and down, and finally merged into his body. His body's realm began to undergo a drastic change, and it rapidly strengthened. After a while the change ended. Jiang Xi opened his eyes full of surprise. His Dao pattern technique had broken through. His body's realm had truly reached the level of a 3-striped doling spirit. He carefully felt the changes in his body. Yes, my body's strength has surpassed a high-grade spirit weapon, but it's still far from a supreme-grade spirit weapon. Jiang Xi had already expected this. There was a qualitative change from a high-grade spirit weapon to a supreme-grade spirit weapon. It was very difficult to cross this boundary. He checked the changes on his experience panel. Dao pattern technique 3 stripes 13 billion. It could be seen from the experience points of a 3-stripe doling spirit. 3 billion experience points. This was currently the highest experience point on the entire panel. A 3-stripe Dao pattern is the Dao of heaven and earth. If I want to reach the level of a 4-stripe doling grandmaster, I need a Dao technique at the level of a great Dao. So now I can at most raise my Dao pattern technique to the limit of 3 stripes. However, since I've refined 3 types of Dao of heaven and earth at the same time, my body's strength might reach the level of a supreme grade spirit weapon at the 3-striped level. The last point was Zhang Xi's guess. Whether his body could be comparable to a supreme grade spirit weapon before the 4-stripe level was still unknown. Immediately after, Zhang Xi continued to raise his Dao pattern technique. It was worth mentioning that the strength of his original body and clone increased at the same time. Therefore, the clone's efficiency of refining spiritual fruits had greatly increased. In just 10 days he had reached the limit of his current Dao technique. Dao pattern technique 3 stripes 300 billion 3 billion. If he continued to raise it, more wounds and cracks would appear on his body, and it would cause his body to collapse. My body's strength has increased a little. As expected, the further I go, the harder it is to raise it. Zhang Xi shook his head and took out another Dao pattern blood crystal. Let's refine another one to raise the limit of my body's Dao technique. Let's see how much my experience in Dao pattern technique can increase. Immediately after, he used his spiritual sense and spirit power to refine the Dao pattern blood crystal. When the Dao pattern blood crystal turned into blood and fused into his body, an extremely strong chaotic will appeared once again. Roar! Kill! Kill! Woo! I can't accept this. I can't accept this. Oh! Damn, it's happening again. Zhang Xi suddenly clenched his fists. All the muscles in his body bulged, and his veins were like small snakes that kept surging. All kinds of angry, bloodthirsty, and crazy roars filled his mind. They were clearer and more violent than the last time. Hang in there. Hang in there. Zhang Xi felt that his consciousness was like a small boat in the sea that was constantly being battered by the chaotic intent. Could capsize at any time. Roar! Kill! Boom! It was as if there was a violent explosion in his mind. Zhang Xi's consciousness was about to collapse. Suddenly, the blood formed by the Dao pattern blood crystal instantly flowed back from his body. It quickly gathered in his palm and turned into a blood-red crystal the size of a fingernail. Failed. Zhang Xi was sweating profusely as he panted heavily. My willpower is still not strong enough. After all, the strength of my spiritual sense is only at the complete nascent soul stage, which is equivalent to a 2-stripe Do Shi. He could reach the level of a 3-stripe Do spirit with his spiritual sense at the complete nascent soul stage. Even on the Do Tattoo continent, this was a rare occurrence. It was enough to prove his talent and willpower. A good start. Zhang Xi tidied up the storage Dharma treasures that he had just obtained. At the same time, the flying ship shuttled to the next location at sublight speed. After traveling for an hour, they landed at a place that was hundreds of territories away from the Moon Shadow territory. Then they would find their target, hunt, steal their treasures, and leave. Including the time spent on reconnaissance with Zhang Xi's efficiency, he could hunt at least 10 times a day and obtain more than 10 Dao pattern blood crystals. There was no good or evil in this kind of hunting. It was just the law of the jungle. It was pure plunder. In the starry sky of the Do pattern continent, the Sixth Sage Palace, which was comparable to the size of a planet, had existed for countless eras. In one of the side halls of the Sixth Sage Palace, there were countless three-dimensional images. Close to 100 Dao integration cultivators were monitoring the situation in the Do pattern continent in real time. Junior brother Zhang Xi, who has just entered the third heaven, has been acting a little strange recently. Everywhere in the Do pattern continent, a Dao integration expert was puzzled. The frequency is a little high, more than 10 times a day. Junior brother Zhang Xi is also bold. This is the first time he has accepted a cultivation mission, and he dares to come to the dangerous Do pattern continent. Alright, be serious. There are a few immortal Dao experts above who think highly of junior brother Zhang Xi. If anyone follows junior brother Jiang Xi and rushes up, kill them immediately. Under normal circumstances, the cultivators of the Dou pattern continent would not be able to pass through the all-encompassing array boundary. However, if someone was fast enough, they would have a chance to follow Jiang Xi out the moment he passed through the boundary. This was an extremely small probability, but it was not impossible. Then Jiang Xi's frequency in the Dou pattern continent continued for 3 years. He seemed to be in a killing frenzy and could not stop. After all, the profits were too high. Although he would return empty-handed sometimes, he would basically reap some rewards. Even without Dao pattern blood crystals, 2-striped Dou Shi and 3-striped Dou spirit cultivators had accumulated a considerable amount of wealth. These 2 levels were equivalent to the nascent soul stage and the primordial soul stage. No matter where they went, they would not be poor. In addition, it was the same as Jiang Xi's plan. In these 3 years, the high-level experts of the Dou pattern continent did not discover that he had been crazily hunting the lords of various places. After all, the Dou pattern continent was too big. The largest diameter was 100 million light-years. Even if one flew at one time the speed of light, it would still take 100 million years to fly from one end to the other. Only when a cultivator reached the Dao immortal realm or above would they have an endless lifespan. Therefore, even a 9th tribulation transcender would not be able to cross the Dou pattern continent within their limited lifespan. It was also useless to have a high-grade flying spirit artifact. This was because there was a large amount of cosmic dust, star fragments, and meteorite fragments in the starry sky around the Dou pattern continent. There was not enough space to accelerate to the speed of light. The huge territory, coupled with the inconvenience of transportation, caused the flow of information not to be very smooth. Therefore, the possibility of Jiang Xi's actions being discovered by the high-level experts of the Dou pattern continent was very small. Of course, as the saying went, if one walked by the river, how could one's shoes not get wet? On this day, in the Thousand Guilt territory, which was about 2 trillion kilometers away from the Black Cloud territory, after a careful investigation, Jiang Xi was ready to make his move. The lord of the Thousand Guilt territory was a 2-striped Dou Shi. He had cultivated for less than 1,000 years and was very talented. The possibility of him having Dao pattern blood crystals was very high. Taking advantage of the night, Jiang Xi sneaked into the lord's mansion and prepared to kill him in one blow. Killing a 2-striped Dou Shi was very easy for him. Boom! However, just as he swung his sword, a burly man with a faint golden light rushed out from under the lord's mansion. He emitted a terrifying aura. Scram! His leg carried a golden light, and with the force of a thunderbolt, he sent riverward flying. Chapter 389. Puff Jiang Xi spat out a mouthful of blood. His body flew out uncontrollably, crashing into countless buildings in the Thousand Guilt territory. Even though his body's toughness surpassed that of a high-grade spiritual weapon, cracks began to appear on his body, which was on the verge of collapsing. This kick was too powerful. Damn it, a 4-striped Dou Zong. Run! A 4-striped Dou Zong was a Dao integration stage existence. Jiang Xi was shocked. He did not have time to regain control of his body. The flying ship appeared instantly. Then he steered the flying ship and flew into the sky. How dare you assassinate my son? How audacious! Even if you run to the ends of the earth, I will kill you, you bastard. A flying spiritual weapon appeared under the feet of the golden-haired man, who was emitting a terrifying aura. He chased after Jiang Xi. A top-grade flying spiritual weapon. What a fast speed! The golden-haired man's eyes shone with a blazing golden light. However, compared to Riverward, his speed was only faster and not slower. He was a 4-striped Dou Zong, and his body was comparable to a top-grade spiritual weapon. Even though he was using a high-grade flying spiritual weapon, his flying speed was still faster than Jiang Xi's. You are seeking death by running to the sky. The golden-haired man sneered. When the cultivators of the Dou Tattoo continent reached a certain level, they would be informed by the temple. There was a heaven and earth boundary in the sky that protected the Dou Tattoo continent. Even a 4-striped Dou Zong could not break it. He was a 4-striped Dou Zong. Of course he knew that this was a lie. That heaven and earth boundary was left behind by the extraterritorial demon race countless years ago. trapping them in this world. As long as one was a cultivator of the Dao Tattoo continent, they would not be able to pass through the heaven and earth boundary. As the saying went, there was no way to heaven and no door to hell. In the eyes of the golden-haired man, this assassin was already a dead man. The distance between the ground and the sky was not too far compared to the vast territory of the Dao Tattoo continent. In just a moment, the two of them approached the invisible heaven and earth boundary. You can't escape. A cold light flashed in the golden-haired man's eyes. The golden light around his body condensed into a long spear, which he threw out. The golden long spear had a powerful aura. It cut through the air and pierced toward the flying ship in front of them. However, the next moment, the golden-haired man was stunned. The flying boat that the assassin was piloting had actually passed through the heaven and earth boundary. Extraterritorial Devil Clan. The golden-skinned man was shocked. Only the extraterritorial devil race could disregard the existence of the barrier. The golden-haired man stood in the thick fog and looked up at the invisible sky, falling into silence. The extraterritorial devil race has arrived. This matter is of great importance. We must inform the Golden Vein Temple. The Thousand Guilt region was under the jurisdiction of the Golden Vein Temple. The Golden Vein Temple had to be notified first. Zhang Xiai steered the flying boat through the array barrier of the battle pattern continent. He didn't stop there either. He shuttled through the starry sky at sublight speed and quickly left this place. At the same time, he sat cross-legged and circulated his spiritual energy to suppress his injuries. One healing spiritual pill after another was refined by him. It took an entire day for his body to fully recover. The hideous and terrifying cracks on his body disappeared without a trace. A 2-line dosure at the Yuaning stage actually has the protection of a 4-line dozong at the unification stage. I am really lucky. Moreover, this person cultivates a metal-type Dao art. After cultivating a Dao pattern, his body is much stronger than an expert of the same level. That kick almost killed me. Zhang Xiai bitterly smiled and shook his head. This was the result of being approached by a high-level Dao pattern cultivator. If not for the fact that he also cultivated Dao pattern techniques and that his body was stronger than a high-grade spirit artifact, he would have been kicked to death just now. However, this kick also woke Zhang Xiai up. If you hunt birds every day, you will eventually be pecked in the eye. This time I was lucky. If I encounter a 5-line Dao King at the Tribulation Transcendent stage next time. Moreover, that golden-haired man has already discovered that I came from beyond the heavens. He will definitely report this matter to the 5 temples. If I want to hunt like this in the future, it will be much more difficult. Zhang Xiai shook his head and woke up from his crazy hunting state. It was time to stop 3 years of sleepless hunting. Haha, the harvest is already more than enough. Riverward laughed heartily. In his storage ring, the Dao pattern blood crystals had already piled up into a small mountain. Counting carefully, there were a total of 14,586 of them. I'm afraid that none of the Purple Heaven sect disciples who came to the battle pattern continent could obtain so many. There were definitely people who wanted to do this kind of crazy hunting method to obtain Dao pattern blood crystals. However, there were very few people who had the strength of Zhang Xiai at the nascent soul stage. First of all, it was extremely rare for a nascent soul stage cultivator to cultivate 3 Daos of heaven and earth at the same time. Secondly, although the difficulty of obtaining Dao pattern techniques was not high, the difficulty of cultivating them was very high. Using 3 Daos of heaven and earth to cultivate Dao pattern techniques was even more difficult. Moreover, obtaining the Yun family's Dao pattern secret technique required too much luck, and could only be chanced upon by luck. Therefore, there were very few people who had just become a 3-line Dao spirit and had a body that surpassed a high-grade spirit artifact. Finally, only Zhang Xiai had the experience panel. This was the key. It's about time to go to the fallen god's land. This place is about 1 trillion kilometers away from the fallen god's land. Flying at sublight speed will take about 2 months. I can make use of this time to rest and reorganize. Zhang Xiai adjusted the flying ship's direction and flew towards the fallen god's land. In the following time, he hurried along the way and cultivated. During this time, he tried to refine the 3rd Dao pattern blood crystal. Unfortunately, he still failed. His willpower still could not withstand the impact of the chaotic willpower. Zhang Xiai did not force it. Besides, he also took the time to inform Zhang Daodu that he was safe. Because he had been in the robbing business for the past 3 years, he had less contact with Zhang Daodu. Not only Zhang Daodu, but he also contacted Xian Tian, Li Baibai, and his master, the Wine Sword Immortal, who was far away in the ancient Dao source world. Time flew by. 2 months passed. The flying ship arrived above the fallen gods' land on the battle pattern continent. As soon as he arrived, Jiang Xi's expression turned serious. This was because the thick fog in this area had a strange blood-red color and was flowing slowly. Even though they were separated by an array formation barrier, they could vaguely feel the vexing and irritating murderous aura. How strong is the murderous aura below? Jiang Xi was on high alert. He put away the flying ship and disappeared into the thick blood-red fog. In the starry sky, in the Six Worthies Palace, which was comparable to a planet. In the side hall in charge of real-time monitoring of the battle pattern continent. Many Dao integration experts saw Jiang Xi enter the blood-red fog in the fallen god's land through one of the images. I knew that this strange genius junior brother would not be able to resist the urge to go to the fallen god's land to take a look. A Dao integration expert smiled knowingly. The fallen god's land is extremely mysterious. According to the records of the Six Worthies Palace, countless epochs ago, the fallen god's land has conquered the fallen god's land. In order to conquer the battle pattern continent, many immortal Dao experts of the Purple Heaven sect have died there. It is the most dangerous place on the battle pattern continent. I wish him good luck. Ever since the battle pattern continent was conquered, the 3 gates and 6 sects have had many outstanding disciples. They entered the fallen god's land out of curiosity, but they all lost their lives in the end. Another person sighed. The others nodded in agreement. They were in charge of monitoring the battle pattern continent, so they naturally knew all kinds of secrets. Of course, if he is lucky and can gain something from it, then it will be a great benefit. The group of Dao integration experts knew that the fallen god's land was very dangerous, but they did not stop Jiang Xi. Everyone's path was chosen by themselves, and they wouldn't interfere. Their mission was to eliminate the battle pattern continent cultivators, who had escaped the array formation barrier. Although the probability was very small, it was not impossible. Chapter 390. After passing through the formation barrier, Jiang Xi carefully maintained a steady speed as he descended. The further down he went, the thicker the blood mist became, and the more violent it became. After descending for 100,000 kilometers, the blood mist turned into a sea of blood, setting off huge waves. That dense baleful aura was constantly affecting one's state of mind. Although the intensity of the baneful aura in this area can't be compared to the chaotic intent of the Dao pattern blood crystal, it is still very powerful. However, even if a golden core stage cultivator were to come here, they would also be affected by the baleful aura here and their minds would be in chaos. It descended another 200,000 kilometers. Finally, they saw the land of the fallen gods. At the edge of a boundless continent, there were countless fragments of continents. It was as if he had been attacked by something that could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth. The thick blood-colored mist was swirling and rolling in this area. During the 3 years of hunting, Jiang Xi had collected a lot of information about the land of the fallen gods through the dead lords. The land of the fallen gods had a radius of 10 million kilometers. Half of it was located at the northern border of the battle pattern continent, while the other half was made up of countless fragments of land in the void. It was like a floating island. It feels like these fragments were shattered by a single blow. If that's the case, how powerful is the person who did it? Jiang Xi was secretly astonished. Let's find a place to land first and scout the situation. He found a fragment of land with an area of over 1 million square kilometers. The terrain here was very rough. There were also mountains and rivers, and it exuded an ancient aura. As soon as Jiang Xi's feet touched the ground, he could feel the boundless murderous aura that filled the world. It swarmed in from all directions and passed through his body. All sorts of chaotic wills appeared in his mind, constantly attacking his consciousness. This intensity has already surpassed the chaotic willpower that refined the first Dao pattern blood crystal. But to me, if I want to temper my will, this intensity is far from enough. The image in Jiang Xi's mind emitted wisps of golden light, easily suppressing these chaotic wills. I have to find a place with even denser baleful aura to temper my willpower. Once my willpower improves, I will fuse with the next Tao pattern blood crystal. This was his next cultivation goal. Soon after, he began to search the fragment, crossing mountains and rivers. Half a day later, Jiang Xi paused and his eyes lit up. In a valley with a diameter of over 100 kilometers, the thick blood-red fog seemed to be condensing into a liquid state. Even the rolling and flowing speed had slowed down. The baleful aura here is very dense. Jiang Xi's footsteps were light as he crossed the void and arrived at the valley. Then, he found a comfortable position and sat down cross-legged. Open up my mind and let the chaotic will of the baleful aura attack my consciousness. Suddenly, boundless murderous aura surged into his body and into his mind. The image of visualizing self emitted wisps of golden spiritual light to fight against these chaotic wills. However, it was clear that the image of viewing oneself was at a disadvantage. It's good that he's weak. Only then will he be able to hone himself. Jiang Xi's attention was highly focused, but he still could not feel the increase in the strength of his consciousness. The effect was not ideal. Try holding on for a while. Speaking of which, this is an excellent place to cultivate the path of Blood Fiend. If Blood Boy were to come here, he would probably be overjoyed. Just as he was thinking this, a cold light suddenly came from behind him. Making a sneak attack in front of me? Jiang Xi sneered. Whoosh! The sword light flickered and blocked the cold light. At the same time, another sword was swung out. The powerful force directly forced the opponent to retreat. Two-striped Do Shi? Jiang Xi saw the person who attacked him. It was a long-haired young man. The two-striped Do Shi was at the nascent soul stage, and the strength of his spiritual sense was comparable to his. It was difficult for him to discover the other party when he deliberately hid, so he allowed the other party to get close. What a fast reaction, what a fast sword! The long-haired young man was shocked. In the face of Jiang Xi's counterattack, he did not take it and turned to leave. He seemed to specialize in assassination. However, how could Jiang Xi let him go? He suddenly dispersed his aura and chased after him, three-striped Do Ling. The long-haired young man's expression changed drastically. The two of them, one in front and one behind, chased to the other side of the valley. Boom! The shadow of a staff like a long dragon smashed toward Jiang Xi with incomparable strength. There's another one? Jiang Xi was expressionless. His body swayed, turning into countless wind phantoms, and he directly raised his sword. Clang! 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 The long staff attack was sent flying and landed on a mountain nearby. The mountain, which was thousands of meters tall, collapsed with a loud bang. What a powerful attack! What grade of sword is he using? My long staff was refined by a five-striped Do King, but it was easily sent flying. The other attacker, who was hiding in the dark, showed an expression of disbelief. Just now, he was very confident that even a three-striped Do Ling would not be able to easily take that staff attack. After being attacked by two people in a row, Jiang Xi was also angry. In the past 3 years, he had been the one to assassinate others. Since when did others have the chance to sneak attack him? Whoosh! His speed reached the highest, and in an instant, he caught up with the long-haired young man who was running for his life. The sword carried a powerful force as it pierced out. Spare me, I am from the Golden Vein Temple. My master is Xiangxiu Dozong. The long-haired young man begged for mercy. He realized that his speed could not block this sword. However, Jiang Xi did not listen to him. The sword was unstoppable as it pierced into his opponent's body. A powerful force erupted. The long-haired young man, who was a two-striped Do Shi, exploded in the air. He could not be more dead. Whoosh! 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 Before it stopped, 3 arrows that were suffused with golden light shot out from another direction. Not simple. Jiang Xi treated it seriously. A Dao technique attack instantly appeared. The extremely explosive Dao of Li fire covered the sword. Suddenly, dark red sword shadows shot out. Puff! 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 The 3 arrows were destroyed, but the remaining sword shadows continued to attack in the direction of the arrows. Chapter 391. Jiang Xi's goal was to explore the fallen godland, so he kept checking along the way, and didn't immediately rush into the depths of the fallen godland. During this process he saw many shocking spectacles. For example, there were huge footprints thousands of miles long, broken ancient weapons with powerful auras, and even some creepy bones. To be cautious, he didn't approach these areas for fear of provoking some taboo. Jiang Xi guessed, the battlefield of the gods. Those who fought here weren't just tribulation immortals, right? After approaching the depths of the fallen godland, there were indeed fewer cultivators here. Where there were people, it was easy to have conflicts. In particular, this place was filled with endless killing intent. Everyone was very irritable, and the possibility of conflict was higher. Therefore, he chose to come to a place with fewer people. I'm here to temper my will, not to fight. Jiang Xi's goal was clear. 10 days later, he arrived at a fragment with a radius of 100,000 kilometers. This was also the largest fragment among the many fragments, and it was located in the core area of the fallen godland. He continued to search on this fragment and found many places with dense killing intent. Some even condensed into blood-colored lakes. This was the best place to temper one's will. Unfortunately, these places had long been occupied. Before he got close, he could feel the aura of powerhouses emitting from them. Without accurate information, Jiang Xi couldn't take action and snatch other people's territory. Therefore, he could only look for other places without people. This place was so big, so he could definitely find a suitable place to cultivate. Another 10 days later, Jiang Xi stood on a mountain 1 million meters high. Seeing the scene below, his breathing stagnated. He saw a huge valley with a diameter of more than 10,000 kilometers, surrounded by mountains of more than 1 million meters high. The killing intent here was so dense that it seemed like it was about to condense into a sea. It was so dense that it had even stopped flowing. The chaotic wills contained in the baleful aura roared in unwillingness, echoing in the world. He could confirm that this was the place with the highest concentration of killing intent he had encountered so far. The only problem was that the high concentration of killing intent suppressed his spiritual sense originally. He could explore as far as 1,000 kilometers, but now he could only explore less than 100 kilometers. This is it. Jiang Xi made a decision. Of course, such a good place to train one's willpower was bound to have many hidden cultivators. The reason for choosing this place was very simple. This was because his spiritual sense had discovered that there were quite a few people cultivating in seclusion within a radius of 100 kilometers. They were all 2-striped doshers and 3-striped dolings. There were no 4-striped dozongs. In other words, this was a public training ground, not private. There's not enough killing intent here. Jiang Xi went down, wanting to go to a place where the baleful aura was thicker. His figure quickly disappeared into the murderous aura that was about to condense into a sea. The deeper he went, the thicker the baleful aura became. The chaotic will became more and more intense, constantly attacking his consciousness. I can still take it. Keep going. Continue. 10,000 meters, 20,000 meters, 100,000 meters, 200,000 meters along the way. Many cultivators noticed Jiang Xi, but no one made a move. Everyone was very clear that those who dared to come here to cultivate were not easy to deal with. Without absolute certainty, no one was willing to take the initiative to provoke others. In addition, they were more like spectators. This person is so unscrupulous. He's really courting death. The spiritual sense strength of a 3-striped doling can only go down to 300,000 meters. Below 300,000 meters, the chaotic will directly disperse his consciousness, turning him into a mindless lunatic. Soon, when they saw that Jiang Xi had really entered the area below 300,000 meters, they no longer paid attention. In their opinion, this 3-striped doling who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth was finished. Below 300,000 meters, the chaotic will here had a very strong impact on one's consciousness. Jiang Xi also felt a very strong pressure. The image in his mind constantly emitted golden spiritual sense light to fight against the chaotic will in the surrounding killing intent. However, the golden spiritual sense light was suppressed, and it was very difficult to spread out. This was also the reason why the detection range of his spiritual sense was reduced. I can still go down further. Jiang Xi gritted his teeth. His eyes were red with a murderous glint. At this area there were no other cultivators. He was the only one. 400,000 meters. Kill. Kill them all. Roar. I would rather die than be a slave. Kill. All kinds of chaotic wills filled Jiang Xi's mind. Kill. Jiang Xi could not help but roar angrily. He was affected. Not good. The image in his mind emitted an even stronger golden spiritual sense light, awakening him from his bloodthirsty and crazy state. I can't go any further. It's at this position. Riverward confirmed that this was the limit of what his spiritual sense and consciousness could bear at present. The surrounding killing intent could have the best tempering effect on his will. He panted heavily, and a bloody light appeared in his eyes. He tried hard to maintain his calmness. Then, he let go of the mental defense a little, and took the initiative to guide the chaotic will to attack his consciousness. He did not dare to let go too much. If the chaotic will was too strong, it would cause his consciousness to collapse. That would be a tragedy. Spiritual sense was the soldier, consciousness was the general, and willpower was equivalent to the highest commander. Willpower and consciousness could be improved through tempering. As for the strength of spiritual sense, it could only be improved through cultivation. What he had to do now was to use the chaotic will to temper his consciousness. When his consciousness was strengthened, his willpower would also be strengthened. I haven't cultivated like this for a long time. All along, he had been using the experience panel to improve. He rarely took the initiative to temper himself. Sometimes, Jiang Xi wondered if he would have been able to reach the same heights as he did today without the EXP panel. In terms of cultivation, there was definitely no way to experiment. But in terms of willpower, now was a very good opportunity to experiment. Thinking like this, after a while, suddenly Jiang Xi found that a wisp of golden light appeared in the still blood-colored killing intent in front of him. Chapter 392. Not only 10 kilometers away, but also 20, 50, and 90 kilometers away, he found a wisp of cold golden light. Moreover, it was very regular, and they were probably all in the same line. Jiang Xi thought for a moment, and his figure flashed. He followed the wisps of cold golden light and crossed the void, heading to an unknown place in front of him. After a moment of adaptation, he had already begun to adapt to the evil aura here. Of course, although there were no other hidden cultivators nearby, he still had to be cautious. He did not move too fast, and maintained a posture that could attack or retreat at any time. Fortunately, these cold golden lights are not in the area below. Otherwise, even if I see them, I won't be able to detect them. As he moved forward, Jiang Xi found that there were more and more cold golden lights in the evil aura. Soon, he was blocked by a 1,000,000-meter-tall mountain in front of him. He came to the other side of the valley. There it is. Jiang Xi's gaze fell on a cave in the mountain wall. A thick mass of cold golden light was suspended there. It seemed to be wrapped in an object, giving off a pure and holy feeling. The wisps of golden light in the evil aura dissipated from here. Moreover, because his spiritual sense was suppressed by the evil aura, and because he was a little far away, he could not detect the object wrapped in the cold golden light with his spiritual sense. What was it? Jiang Xi was very curious. There are no other hidden cultivators nearby, and I don't sense any danger. This time, even his sharp intuition did not warn him. He was already here, and there was no way he could retreat. Riverward decisively traversed the void and took a step forward. Chi-chi, but before he could really get close, a part of the cold golden light floating in the cave. Like sharp blades, it fell on his body, leaving inch-deep wounds. In an instant, his entire body became dripping with blood. My body surpasses a superior-grade spiritual artifact. Jiang Xi was shocked. The cold golden light easily broke through his defense. Fortunately, these cold golden lights have no consciousness. Otherwise, with so many of them, I would be dismembered in an instant. Spiritual artifact battle armor. A black battle armor appeared and covered his whole body. Clang, clang, clang. Those cold golden lights fell on his body again and could not break his defense. With another step, he arrived in front of the thick, ice-cold golden light. Now that Jiang Xi saw it clearly, he was stunned. Finger. What was enveloped by the cold golden light was actually a golden finger. There was still a drop of dark red blood hanging from the cut of his finger. The aura of the golden finger and the drop of blood was very pure and holy. It's strange. Jiang Xi couldn't see anything else with his eyes. He decided to separate a strand of his spiritual sense to investigate. If there really is something strange, just abandon this wisp of spiritual sense. His spiritual sense penetrated the thick layer of ice-cold golden light and touched the golden finger. What a rich metal-type Taoist rhyme. It really is a metal-type Taoist art. Jiang Xi's eyes widened in disbelief. He had actually guessed correctly. This golden finger contained an unknown metal-type Tao art. After that, Jiang Xi examined it carefully again. In the end, he confirmed that the finger was not dangerous at all. What kind of expert left this behind? Just a finger hides such a rich metal-type Tao art. It's 10,000 times richer than the Tao of fire left behind by the One family's ancestor. Suddenly, Jiang Xi was stunned for a moment, and an idea popped up in his mind. These cold golden lights formed by the metal-type Taoist rhyme had no consciousness. The metal-type Tao art on the golden finger could also be easily sensed by his spiritual sense. Could he comprehend the metal-type Tao art in it? If he could, then the harvest would be great. Humans could go back on their original path, but Tao arts could not. The great Tao was vast, and the Tao of heaven and earth was only a small Tao. When a cultivator's Tao art stepped into the great Tao level, due to the repelling nature of the great Tao, it would be difficult to comprehend new Tao arts. Therefore, Jiang Xi had always had an idea. It was to comprehend more new Tao arts before stepping onto the great Tao. After all, every time he added a new Tao of heaven and earth, the amplification effect of his Tao fusion secret magic would increase by a lot. The effect of the Tao fusion technique of 2 Tao of heaven and earth was the original spiritual power amplitude 2. The effect of the Tao fusion technique of 3 Tao of heaven and earth was the original spiritual power amplitude 3. And so on. 4 Tao of heaven and earth was the spiritual power amplitude 4. Moreover, the stronger one was, the more obvious the effect would be. For example, using the Tao fusion technique of 3 Tao of heaven and earth to deduce. His current spiritual power amplitude was 2,000 times. After using the Tao fusion technique, his spiritual power amplitude 3 would become 6,000 times. When his spiritual power amplitude reached 10,000 times, he would use the Tao fusion technique again. His spiritual power amplitude 3 would be 30,000 times. The multiplier would increase from 4,000 to 20,000. Then what if it's amplitude 4 and amplitude 5? Jiang Xi's eyes were filled with vigor. Although the Wine Sword Immortal had once suggested that he should specialize in Sword Tao. This was because if a cultivator walked on multiple paths of Tao arts, there would be concerns that it would be difficult to walk on them in the future. However, he had the experience points panel, so he didn't have to worry about the problem of not being able to walk on the path. At most, the experience points required to deduce would increase exponentially. The problem was that it was very difficult to find other types of Tao art inheritances. Although the Tao arts of the ancient Tao source world could be seen with the naked eye, they were not inheritances. Moreover, due to the various types of Tao arts, it was still very difficult to comprehend a new Tao art there. The so-called Tao art inheritance required the cultivator to take the initiative to disperse the consciousness in their Tao art. This allowed others to comprehend and refine the Tao art that they cultivated. However, as long as a truly powerful cultivator was alive, very few would be willing to leave behind a Tao art inheritance. That way, it would be easy to expose one's weakness. For example, the Tao art inheritance of the One clan on the Murong planet was extremely rare. However, even if Wen Yan had left behind a wisp of the Tao of Li Fire for the One clan, he had also left his consciousness in the Tao art. Only the One clan's bloodline could truly comprehend and refine that wisp of Tao of Li Fire. Back then, I was able to refine that wisp of Li Fire, perhaps because of the memories in my mind. Perhaps it's because of Master Taoist Ji's inherited memories, or perhaps it's because of the existence of the experience points panel, riverward thought. Therefore, in summary, Tao art inheritance could only be found by chance. Today he had encountered it. Let's cultivate here. After that, Jiang Xi sat cross-legged in the cave. He was multitasking. He was tempering his willpower. He was deducing the 3 Tao arts that he already had. He was trying to comprehend a new Tao art. Because the metal-type Tao art on this golden finger did not have any consciousness, Therefore, he could boldly comprehend it with his spiritual consciousness. In less than an hour, you have comprehended the Vajra true intent. Experience points plus 100,000. The experience points panel's notification sounded. I succeeded. Another rare Dao art. Jiang Xi's face was filled with surprise. The speed of his comprehension was too fast. It was beyond his imagination. Chapter 393. In less than an hour, he had successfully comprehended the true meaning of this metal elemental Dao technique. The true meaning of Vajra. It was many times faster than when he comprehended the Ignis Dao technique. In addition to being pleasantly surprised, Jiang Xi also knew why he could comprehend it so quickly. First of all, he was now at the peak of the nascent soul stage, and his spiritual sense was stronger. Secondly, after refining the 2 Dao pattern blood crystals, his affinity with the heaven and earth Dao technique had increased by 2 times compared to before. Then, the metal elemental Dao technique contained in this golden finger emitted a Dao rhythm that was 10,000 times richer than the Ignis Dao left behind by Wen Yen. Combining these factors, even if there is interference from the other 3 Dao techniques of heaven and earth, the speed of my comprehension of the new Dao technique is also 100 times faster than when I comprehended the Ignis Dao technique. These thoughts took a long time to describe, but in fact they only appeared in his mind for a moment. At this moment Jiang Xi felt something in his heart. The golden finger in front of him emitted wisps of cold golden light. As if it was being summoned and attracted, it went straight into his mind. Riverward was startled, but then he reacted. The consciousness of the Dao technique inheritance left behind by the owner of this finger has long dissipated, and there is no danger. Then, he began to refine the cold golden light that hovered in his mind. However, due to the interference of the other 3 Dao techniques, he clearly felt that the refining speed was much slower. The process of comprehending the Dao technique had many aspects of enhancement, but the refining process did not. Even if Jiang Xi's spiritual sense was at the nascent soul stage, it still took nearly 10 minutes to refine a wisp of cold golden light. You have comprehended the Vajra inheritance. Experience points plus 100,000. The experience points panel's notification sounded. However, the golden finger in front of him did not change. The degree of completeness of the Vajra Dao technique in the finger was beyond Jiang Xi's imagination. He continued to refine without rest. 3 days later, the golden finger still did not change. A month later, it was still the same. A year later, he could finally see with the naked eye that the color of the golden finger had become a little lighter. The Vajra Dao technique hidden in it had also weakened a little. What level of expert left this finger behind? The surprise in Jiang Xi's heart could no longer be described as shocking. This was because in the past year, he had obtained more than 5 billion experience points from refining the King Kong legacy on his finger. With such a huge amount of experience points, he was quite generous with his deductions. Vajra domain level 10 500000/50000000. Half a month ago, the Vajra true intent had been upgraded to the Vajra domain. However, the 2 secret techniques, Dao fusion technique and Dao pattern technique, did not change. Jiang Xi understood that he would probably have to wait until the Vajra Dao art reached the level of the Dao of heaven and earth before it could form a connection with the original 3 Dao arts. At that time, my strength will undergo a qualitative change. In the blink of an eye, another 2 years had passed. Jiang Xi had been cultivating in the land of the fallen gods for a full 3 years. During this period of time, other than the improvement of the Vajra Dao art, he did not stop cultivating in other aspects. Under the impact and tempering of the boundless baleful aura, his willpower had obviously strengthened significantly. However, he was still unable to refine the 3rd Dao pattern blood crystal. The green lotus sword way had been deduced from the 26th transformation to the 32nd transformation. This was a significant improvement as well. However, the improvement of the Ignis Dao and the Gale Dao was obviously much slower than the Sword Dao. This was because the deduction of the Sword Dao was assisted by the Lotus Sword manual. The Ignis Dao and the Gale Dao did not have it. It would be great if I could carry something similar to an inheritance altar with me for every Dao art. Jiang Xi fantasized. Then he threw this unrealistic thought to the back of his mind. The Dao Alliance's 3 gates and 6 sects were so powerful. But after countless eras, they had only accumulated 44 inheritance altars. If he brought one of each Dao technique, he would have 4 Dao techniques in total. If that was the case, he would probably be struck by lightning wherever he went. It's time to contact Daodu. Zhang Xi held the communication bead and sent a message after coming to the land of the fallen gods to cultivate. He would contact his family every once in a while if he had nothing to do to let them know that he was safe. Not only Jiang Dudu, but he also contacted the Xian Tian, Li Baibai, the Wine Sword Immortal, and Granny Yen more often. Soon the message was connected. In order to prevent others from discovering his true identity, Zhang Xi concealed his communication bead. He did not let Jiang Dudu's communication phantom appear on his side. Instead, his communication phantom appeared on the third heaven's Daodu continent. After seeing Jiang Dudu, Zhang Xi was about to speak when he realized that there were others with her. "You're all here." Zhang Xi was a little surprised. He saw that Mu Ning and Yan Jufeng were with him. Like him, they were communication phantoms. You appear and disappear like a ghost. If we don't look for Daodu, we won't be able to catch you, Yan Jufeng said. It's been more than 6 years. You're not still doing that danger level mission, are you? Mu Ning was concerned about this point. That's right. Zhang Xi nodded lightly. You have to take it easy. If you can't do it, just retreat. In the past few years, other genius disciples in the same batch as us have died many times. Many of them died in their cultivation missions. The death rate of your dangerous mission is much higher than theirs. Mu Ning frowned. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Zhang Xi smiled. Jiang Dudu did not say anything, but there was a hint of worry in her eyes. My master also reminded me not to put the cart before the horse and get addicted to cultivation level missions. The most important thing is to comprehend the Tao and raise your cultivation level. You have to be careful. Otherwise, we'll catch up to your strength. Yan Jufeng saw that the atmosphere was a little off and quickly joked. Why don't you guys believe me? Zhang Xi smiled. Mu Ning and Yan Jufeng nodded. Let's go. We'll gather at the sky connecting mountain. I'll let you guys see. Zhang Xi stared and said. Then, he told Jiang Dudu that he would come over later. After he finished speaking, his phantom transmission image disappeared. Such big words. I want to see how much you've improved in the past few years. Mu Ning muttered, so confident. Challenging the sky connecting mountain? Are you going to pass the 6th stage? Yan Jufeng was also curious. In the sky connecting mountain's river diagram, the sky connecting mountain was located on the sky connecting mountain. Zhang Xi, Mu Ning, and Yan Jufeng appeared one after another. When the black-robed Lord Mountain Guardian saw the 3 of them, he smiled and asked, all of you want to challenge the sky connecting mountain. There's no one on the Green Lotus sky connecting mountain, but there are people on the Myriad sky connecting mountain and Heavenly Sun connecting mountain. Lord Mountain Guardian, it's still too early for us to pass the next stage. Mu Ning smiled and said, it's this guy. From his tone, it seems like he wants to pass the 6th stage. Yan Jufeng pointed at Zhang Xi. Of the 2, one was pure and innocent, while the other was lively. Both of them were straightforward people. The Lord Mountain Guardian also looked at Zhang Xi in surprise. Lord Mountain Guardian, we want to see him challenge the sky connecting mountain. Can we? Mu Ning asked again. You'll have to ask him. The Lord Mountain Guardian said. Riverward smiled faintly and nodded in agreement. Challenging the sky connecting mountain was not a secret. It didn't matter even if he was seen. Moreover, Mu Ning and Yan Jufeng were good friends. Chapter 394. Green Lotus Sky-Piercing Mountain. In the illusory space of the 6th stage, it was still an endless mountain range. The gatekeeper carried a long sword and stood in the air. It's you? It's only been 6 years since we last met, and you're confident of clearing the 6th stage? The gatekeeper had a deep impression of Zhang Xi, because Zhang Xi was different from others. The frequency of challenging the sky-piercing mountain was low, and his success rate was high. The last 2 times were 10 and 20 years apart respectively. This time it was only 6 years and he broke through again? Won't you know if you try? Zhang Xi smiled confidently. Buzz, the long sword emitted a sword hum. In an instant, 3 Tao of heaven and earth fused and poured into the sword body. Boom! Then he held the long sword, his aura surging as he charged straight at the gatekeeper. It's just that your sword Tao has improved a little. The other 2 Tao techniques have not changed much. With such strength you'll definitely lose. The gatekeeper shook his head lightly. His soaring sword intent instantly swept toward Jiang Xi with 100,000 sword light. But in the next moment, a scene that shocked the gatekeeper appeared. Jiang Xi actually ignored his attack, allowing the sword intent to transform into 100,000 sword light to land on his body. Clang! Jiang Xi's body actually emitted a huge vibration. What a strong defense! The gatekeeper's eyes focused. He attacked again. Sword shadows whistled, turning into a sword curtain that filled the sky. Countless sword lights shot out. However, Jiang Xi still ignored it. Relying on his body realm, he charged forward. Clang! Clang! Those sword lights only caused slight wounds on his body at most. It's my turn. Jiang Xi's figure flashed past one afterimage after another. A sword with a 6,000 times spirit power amplitude cut through space and immediately appeared in front of the gatekeeper. In comparison, the 6 stages spirit power amplitude was 6,400 times, 400 times higher than his. Last time he was defeated by this point. And this time, he relied on his tyrannical body to block the gatekeeper's sword after getting close at the same time. He stabbed out with his sword. The gatekeeper died. 6th stage passed. On the platform in front of the 44 sky-piercing mountains, a 3-dimensional phantom showed the scene of Jiang Xi challenging the Green Lotus sky-piercing mountain in real time. The 6th stage. It's over just like that? The further you go in the Heavenspan mountain, the more difficult it is to pass. The difficulty of passing the 6th stage is even greater than the previous 5 stages combined. This freak, how did he improve so much in just 6 years? This isn't the ancient Tao origin world. If it were the ancient Tao origin world, it would still be acceptable to use 6 years to advance 1 stage, but this is the origin universe. Mu Ning and Yin Jufeng were flabbergasted. According to their initial assumption, it would take Jiang Xi at least 50 years to pass the 6th stage after leaving the ancient Tao origin world. It had only been 6 years. Even the mountain keeper was startled. He stared deeply at Jiang Xi in the illusion. This little fellow is really different from the masses. He's taken 3 paths of Tao arts and has even taken the path of body refinement? How magnanimous! The 7th stage of the Green Lotus Heavenly Mountain. In the illusory space there was still an endless mountain range. The gatekeeper said with a serious face, "A body that surpasses a high-grade spiritual weapon? Did you walk the path of body refinement again? However, it's rare to see someone reach this level in just 6 years." The gatekeeper of each stage of the Heavenspan mountain was the same person, but their Tao arts were different. The gatekeeper had fought with Jiang Xi a few times, so he was very clear about Jiang Xi's previous Tao arts. It had only been 6 years, but Jiang Xi's Tao arts had improved so much. His talent was shocking. The entry level of body refinement was very simple, but it was even more difficult to cultivate to a higher level than Tao arts. Jiang Xi smiled but didn't say anything. His method of fighting the previous stage was a little shameless. However, his Tao arts was also his strength, so it was in accordance with the rules. He couldn't use his spiritual armor in the Heavenspan mountain, therefore. His body, which surpassed a high-grade spiritual weapon, had a huge advantage. The strength of a high-grade spiritual weapon was no joke. Although the gatekeeper's Tao arts were strong, they had to maintain the same cultivation level as him, which was the peak of the nascent soul stage. Under this premise, the gatekeeper could only break through his defense at most. Wanting to cause fatal damage to him was very difficult. Every 3 stages of the Heavenspan mountain, the difficulty rises by a major level. Just relying on your Tao arts, you can't pass the 7th stage. The gatekeeper snorted lightly. "Let's begin." Jiang Xi nodded and said. A moment later, Jiang Xi fell silent. Failure. The 7th stage was indeed different. Although the gatekeeper's spirit energy amplification multiplier only increased by 900. However, the attack of the sword will had a qualitative leap. It easily broke through his body's defense. The news of Jiang Xi clearing the 6th stage of the Heavenspan mountain spread very quickly. The genius disciples of the same batch as him were stimulated again. On the platform in front of the 44 heaven-span mountains, one figure after another appeared. At this time Jiang Xiai, Mu Ning, and Yin Jufeng had already left. Therefore, among the geniuses, the ones who received the most attention were naturally Ji Wei and Kuang Lang, the two fourth firmament disciples. Kuang Lang's arrogance had long been worn down. Although he was stimulated, he could still maintain his calm at this time. He glanced at Ji Wei and understood Ji Wei's current feelings very well. Previously in the ancient Tao origin world, he had watched as Jiang Xiai caught up to him step by step and surpassed him. At that time he had been feeling like this. As expected, Ji Wei seemed to have been greatly stimulated. Although he had always been cold, a light flashed through his eyes. Then, under everyone's gaze, he came before the gatekeeper. "My lord, I want to challenge the mountain." "Go, there's no one on the Heavenspan mountain." The gatekeeper nodded. He naturally knew what Ji Wei was thinking. A strand of white hair floated in front of Ji Wei's forehead as he flew towards the Heavenspan mountain. The gatekeeper looked at Ji Wei's back and lightly shook his head. The difficulty of the Heavenspan mountain increases greatly with every 3 stages. The 7th stage is much more difficult than the 6th. He didn't know if Ji Wei could pass the 7th stage. The Heavenspan mountain's illusory space was the universe's starry sky. The gatekeeper was a young man with a head full of white hair. He looked at Ji Wei expressionlessly. The Void Universe altar is one of the strongest of the 44 inheritance altars. It cultivates both the Tao of time and the Tao of space. Your attainments in the Tao of space are very high. If you had chosen an inheritance altar related to space, you would have passed the 9th stage long ago. However, your Tao of time is only at the strength of the 3rd stage at most. Therefore, you are still far from being able to pass the 7th stage of the Heavenspan mountain. Ji Wei's gaze flickered, but he didn't say a word. Then he directly pulled out his sword and shattered the space. He transformed into nearly 10,000 phantoms and appeared in various fragments at the same time, attacking the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper shook his head and lightly waved the sword in his hand. Time and space changed, and the shattered space returned to normal. Under this attack, Ji Wei seemed to be defenseless and was killed in one strike. He was dead. He had failed the challenge. After leaving the illusory space, Ji Wei stood on the platform of the 7th stage of the Heavenspan mountain. His expression, who had always been cold, also changed. Chapter 395. The mountain guardian could see the situation on the Void Universe Skyspan mountain. After watching the scene of Ji Wei's failure, he sighed softly. This little guy is too impatient. His spatial Tao was already comparable to a tribulation transcender during the 9 regions genius battle. If he specialized in spatial Tao, none of the young people in this batch could surpass him. If things went a little smoother, he could become an immortal within 1,000 years. But he was too ambitious. He wanted to cultivate time Tao to a high level before becoming an immortal. That way he could transcend 9 tribulations and have a chance to become a great Tao immortal. Therefore, when he chose the inheritance altar in the ancient Tao origin world, he chose the Void Universe altar that contained both time and space. Unfortunately, this path is too difficult. In this epoch, the only one who had a chance to reach this step was Yen Lu. Only Lu Yen of the Sword Gate, but he also died before becoming an immortal. The choice of the inheritance altar was a hindrance to him. Now, someone has caught up to him and he has suffered a blow. The mountain guardian shook his head. This is also a good thing. Hopefully he can change his mind in time. As for Jiang Xiai, he walked 3 paths of Tao, and in addition to the path of body refinement he was walking 4 paths at the same time. In the mountain guardian's eyes, this might be another kind of talent that could not be compared. Of course, if he knew that Riverward was still cultivating a metal element Tao art, then he would probably have a different thought. Purple firmament sect 5th heaven. In an immortal's cave residence surrounded by clouds and mist. Immortal Wu Ye's stiff face was now filled with viciousness. His improvement is too fast. It must be because of the purple firmament sword manual. This should have been my opportunity. Wait for him to die. Jiang Xiai, who had been silent for 6 years, came out and threw a deep-sea bomb before fleeing. He declined all invitations, and after chatting with Zhang Daodu for a while, he entered a state of cultivation again. In the huge valley at the core of the fallen god's land, he quietly cultivated. He tempered his will, deduced Dao techniques, and refined the metal-type Dao techniques in the golden finger in the blink of an eye. Another 10 years passed. 400,000 meters down the huge valley, in the cave on the mountain wall, Jiang Xi sat cross-legged. His body was covered in a thick layer of dust, making him look like a stone statue. He hadn't moved for a long time. As he continued to refine and absorb the Vajra Dao art within the golden finger, the golden color of the finger became lighter and lighter. On this day, the last strand of gold on his finger faded. At this moment his fingers had turned completely black, like black jade. The cold golden light that filled the cave had long since dissipated. Jiang Xi's body shook slightly, and the dust on his body flew off. He opened his eyes and a cold light flashed. Compared to when he first came to the land of the fallen gods, his eyes were more resolute and pure. The only thing left in the cave was the dense blood-red baleful aura, and the chaotic will that was still attacking his consciousness. After cultivating here for 13 years, the strength of my consciousness has increased quite a bit. Let's see if I can refine the third Dao pattern blood crystal. With that thought in mind, he took out a blood-red crystal and began to refine it. Kill. Kill. I can't accept this. Kill all the demons. I'd rather die than be a slave. Kill. An even more violent chaotic will instantly filled his mind. Jiang Xi's eyes turned red, and his breathing quickened. His bloodthirsty thoughts became extremely strong, but this time he held on. He successfully refined the third Dao pattern blood crystal. Looks like the effect of the training is still very obvious. My affinity with the heaven and earth Dao has increased again. I can continue to improve my Dao pattern technique. Jiang Xi smiled. Then he let his clone on the first moon of earth refine the spiritual fruit and increase the level of his Dao pattern technique. After doing all that, he looked at the completely discolored finger and chuckled. I didn't expect that the Dao technique hidden in a finger would be worth 100 billion experience points after completely refining it. However, although he had gained so much experience points, nearly half of them were used up because he had deduced the Dao technique. He checked the changes on the experience points panel. Experience points. 61. 348 billion. The remaining experience points were still very considerable. Then Jiang Xi put away the finger that had turned into black jade. At the same time he thought to himself, humans have 10 fingers. This finger is obviously from a human hand. Then, are there any other fingers in this huge valley? If there were, then the harvest this time would be even greater. A golden finger could be worth 100 billion experience points. Jiang Xi left the cave with anticipation. His figure flickered in this boundless evil aura, and his spiritual consciousness spread out to search. First, of course, he searched from 300,000 to 400,000 meters from the top of the valley. There was no need to search the area above 300,000 meters. There were many secluded cultivators there. If there was a similar golden finger, it would have been discovered long ago. Below 300,000 meters, the evil aura was denser, and the chaotic will was stronger. Even a three-striped fighting spirit would not dare to go deep there. Therefore, Jiang Xi was the only one in this area at the moment. He also relied on the image of himself in his mind to finally descend to this position. The diameter of this valley was more than 10,000 kilometers. The area between 300,000 to 400,000 meters was also 100 kilometers from top to bottom. To Jiang Xi, it was neither big nor small. Under normal circumstances, the spiritual consciousness of a perfected nascent soul could explore as far as 1,000 kilometers. The search speed would definitely be very fast. Now, because of the dense evil aura in the valley, the spiritual consciousness was greatly suppressed. He could only explore as far as 100 kilometers, and his speed was correspondingly slower. After searching for an hour, Jiang Xi's face lit up. 60 kilometers ahead of him, his spiritual sense discovered another orb of icy cold golden light. It was the same as the golden finger he saw in the cave. His figure flickered, crossed the void, and arrived in one step in the next moment. Zhang Xi discovered that the object wrapped in the second ball of cold golden light was indeed a golden finger. This should be the index finger. He compared it. In the storage ring, the finger that had turned into black jade was the little finger. Put it away first, then look for the others. Zhang Xi was very excited. He specially used a new storage ring to put away the second golden finger. This was because the metal elemental Tao art on the finger was constantly emitting a sharp golden light like a blade. If it was placed in a commonly used storage ring, it would easily destroy the other items in the storage space. Next, he used another 3 days to search the area between 300,000 and 400,000 meters thoroughly. 3 days later, Zhang Xi stood on a raised platform of one of the million meters tall mountains. Looking at the boundless evil aura, he frowned slightly, because he only found 2 golden fingers. That's it? Normal people have 10 fingers. Including the one I've already refined, I only found 3 golden fingers in this area. Chapter 396. Zhang Xi looked up again and shook his head. There are so many cultivators in the area above. Even if there were other golden fingers, they would have been discovered long ago. Looks like I can only go down and explore. Although the strength of my spiritual sense hasn't increased, after so many years of training, my consciousness and will have improved a lot. I can go deeper. Let's see where I can go first. He leaped, stepped on the void and walked down the valley. 410,000 meters, 430,000 meters, 450,000 meters. I can still take it. Continue. 470,000 meters. As he descended, Zhang Xi found that the range of his spiritual sense was constantly being compressed. Continue. He gritted his teeth and descended again. 490,000 meters. Something's not right. Zhang Xi's expression changed. Kill. Kill. The chaotic willpower that pounced on him became even more violent, as if it had reached a peak. And his consciousness was on the verge of collapse under the impact of this chaotic willpower. It was the limit. But this was not enough to make Zhang Xi's expression change. What shocked him was that he actually heard the sound of waves while his consciousness was in a daze. He endured the limit of his consciousness and went down another 10,000 meters, reaching 500,000 meters. The sound of waves was slightly clearer, but there was still an extremely dense blood-colored evil aura in front of him. He could not see the scene below. And the further down he went, the stronger the evil aura was, further suppressing his spiritual sense. Now, the range of his spiritual sense was less than 10 kilometers. About 550,000 meters down the huge valley was a sea of blood. The blood-colored evil aura condensed into liquid here, converging into an ocean. A gust of wind blew, and waves rose from the sea of blood. At this moment in the void 30,000 meters above the sea of blood, a burly man sat cross-legged, surrounded by a dense evil aura. The burly man looked up and a cold light flashed. That was where Zhang Xi was. Another intruder? He grabbed the communication bead and sent out a message. Sir, a 3-striped fighting spirit has come down. Should we kill him? Soon he received a message. 3-striped fighting spirit? I'll take care of it. Below, a huge black palace stood in the sea of evil aura. Under the palace there was a huge blood pool. Inside the blood pool there were many cultivators with bloodshot eyes. Each of them had a black chain tied around their necks. They had all lost their minds, leaving only madness, bloodthirstiness, and the desire to kill. They had already become mad demons. At this moment, the chain around the neck of one of the skinny men suddenly opened. Go and kill the intruder. A voice rang out beside the scrawny man's ear. Instantly, the blood-red light in his lifeless eyes burned brightly. Kill, kill, kill. He roared and rushed out with his saber. Zhang Xi took a deep breath. The image of observing self in his mind constantly emitted the golden light of spiritual awareness to fight against the chaotic will. His consciousness remained clear, and he felt that he could still go down a little further. Let's see where the limit is. After descending another 10,000 meters, the sound of the waves became even clearer. What is that? There's actually a sea of blood below us. Zhang Xi was very surprised. One could vaguely see that there was a boundless sea of murderous aura below. What shocked him even more was that there was a black palace in the sea of blood. That palace is very far away from me. If I can see it from here, it means that the size of the palace is not small. If he dares to build a palace and cultivate in the sea of blood formed by the murderous aura, it means that he is very powerful. Let's go quickly. His sharp intuition told Jiang Xi that there was danger. He turned and left immediately. But at this moment, roar! A furious roar rang out. From the blood-red murderous aura below, a scrawny man emitting a blood-red light rushed out. The man's eyes were red and he was drooling. He let out a beast-like roar. There are other cultivators? Jiang Xi immediately became vigilant. No, he has already gone mad. His mind has been scattered by the chaotic will. Kill! The scrawny man roared crazily. Saber light spewed out and slashed at Jiang Xi. Crazy three-striped fighting spirit. I'll help you free yourself. Although Jiang Xi was surprised, he was not afraid. He unsheathed his sword. The killing shadow sword transformed into sword flowers like a blooming green lotus. A large amount of sword energy was released. Clang! 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 The sword energy landed on the scrawny man's body and made a loud noise. It only left a slight wound. Roar! The scrawny man did not care about his injuries. He continued to charge at Jiang Xi with a ferocious expression. However, that was not Jiang Xi's final attack. His figure had already arrived in front of the scrawny man along with the sword energy. The long sword whistled and pierced the man's forehead, shattering his primordial spirit. The scrawny man lost his breath. A look of relief flashed across his eyes as he fell. 30,000 meters above the sea of blood, the burly man on the platform frowned. He sent another message. Sir, the intruder killed the blood slave. Let me kill him. You don't have to care about this anymore. He received such a message. A black figure with a terrifying aura flew out from the black palace below and flew straight to the top of the valley. When the burly man saw this, he was shocked. Sir actually took action personally. At the same time, the corpse of the scrawny man had already disappeared in the boundless baleful aura. Jiang Xi only glanced at it and gently shook his head. If it was an ordinary three-striped battle spirit, facing such a fearless attack, the chances of survival would be very small. He could not stay here any longer. It was better to leave quickly. Boom! Suddenly, a huge spiritual sense pressure descended. Jiang Xi's expression changed greatly. A tribulation transcender. Run! His figure turned into a gust of wind and quickly flew toward the top of the valley. You want to escape in front of me? A majestic voice echoed between heaven and earth who at the same time, a middle-aged man wearing black armor quietly appeared above Jiang Xi. Then Jiang Xi found that he seemed to have fallen into a muddy swamp. It's over. He was not this person's opponent at all. Fight to the death. Jiang Xi would not give up so easily. But at this time, the middle-aged man's voice sounded. Which temple are you from? Jiang Xi was stunned for a moment. There was still a turning point? He quickly said, I'm a rogue cultivator. I didn't join the 5 temples. The middle-aged man's face actually showed a trace of a smile, but it was very ugly. He said in a low voice, very good. I'm Kos, the elder of the Golden Vein Temple. Your talent is not bad. You can easily kill one of my blood slaves. Now I'll give you 2 choices. Submit to me or be refined into a blood slave. Jiang Xi's expression changed. The pressure of the Dao technique binding him showed no signs of weakening. He was sure that once he refused to submit, what awaited him would be a devastating blow. What to do? Abandon this body? He still had a clone on the first moon of Earth. Even if the original body died, the clone could continue to live. But the original body had all his belongings. Jiang Xi, I don't care what experience you have in the past, or who you have enmity with. I hope that you can be loyal to Lord Kos in the future. As long as you are fully loyal, there will naturally be many benefits. With Lord's position in the Golden Vein Temple, there are many benefits. With Lord Kos' position in the Golden Pattern Temple, He can obtain all kinds of cultivation resources for you. Jiang Xi chuckled in his heart. Be loyal to him? Although Ter's words were very tempting, that was only relative to the native cultivators of the Do Tattoo continent. No matter how rich the cultivation resources of the Do Tattoo continent were, could they be compared to the Purple Heaven sect? The Purple Heaven sect was the actual ruler of the Dao Alliance. However, he still put on an excited and expectant look and said excitedly, Captain, don't worry. I will do my best to be loyal to Lord Kos. Not bad. Now follow me to the Bloodsea Palace. Ter nodded in satisfaction. The Bloodsea Palace was located 550,000 meters below the valley. With the strength of Jiang Xi's will and consciousness, he could still persevere. Ter also understood this point, so he quickly brought riverward to the Black Palace in the Blood Sea of baleful aura. In front of the palace, Jiang Xi still put on an expression as if he had never seen the world, not revealing any flaws. After entering the first floor of the palace, he saw a wide corridor with many cultivation rooms on one side. These cultivation rooms are where us black-robed priests usually cultivate. I will take you to find an empty room, Ter said. Jiang Xi remained calm and collected. The two of them walked along the corridor. After walking for a while, Jiang Xi's footsteps paused, and his gaze was attracted by a display shelf on the side of the corridor. On the shelf there were skulls, finger bones, leg bones, etc. And these bones were the same color as the finger that had turned into black jade. The difference was that these bones had no flesh, but the black jade finger had flesh. After seeing these things clearly, Jiang Xi remained calm on the surface, but his heart was filled with shock. Could it be that these black jade bones used to contain Dao arts, but they were refined by someone so they turned into black jade? Then he asked her, Captain, These are the Dao pattern secret treasures that Lord collected after killing those 5 pattern king of fighters. Although they are useless now, they can still be used as a symbol of battle achievements, so Lord placed them here, Ter said with a smile. Dao pattern secret treasures? Jiang Xi was really puzzled now, as he had never heard of them. Oh, I forgot. You have never joined the 5 great temples, so you don't know about these. Ter chuckled. He explained, when a Dao pattern cultivator becomes a 5-patterned king of fighters, the Dao pattern will solidify in a certain part of the body, such as the hands, feet, eyes, etc. After death, these parts of the body will turn into Dao pattern secret treasures. For example, these are all left behind by the 5-pattern king of fighters after he died. They are king-level Dao pattern secret treasures. Above the king level is the emperor level, but the emperor level Dao pattern secret treasures are all collected in the 5 great temples. King level, emperor level. Jiang Xi said in surprise, there are emperor level Dao pattern secret treasures? Is there really a 6-pattern king of fighters? A 6-patterned king of fighters was an expert at the Dao immortal realm. Of course there are. Countless years ago, there were 5 6-patterned king of fighters from the 5 great temples. They paid the price with their lives to defeat those extraterritorial demons. You should know that the land of the fallen gods was the battlefield between these ancestors and the extraterritorial demons. And this valley is where the golden patterned king of fighters fell. Ter sighed. Chapter 398. Jiang Xi was surprised. Was this the place where the golden rune Do Huang fell? Could it be that the 3 fingers he obtained were left behind by the golden rune Do Huang? He quickly denied this conjecture. The golden rune Do Huang had been dead for who knows how many years. How could he have been left behind until now and just happened to be discovered by him? How powerful must one's protagonist aura be to have such an opportunity? At this time, Ter sighed and said, Unfortunately, any emperor-level Dao pattern artifact is in existence that can only be encountered but not sought. It is full of mysteries. I once heard Lord Kos say that one must have some kind of fate to discover an emperor-level Dao pattern artifact. If there is no fate, even if it is placed in front of you, you won't be able to see it. Even a 5-pattern Do Huang can't actively detect the existence of an emperor-level Dao pattern artifact. Just like this valley, it is the place where the golden rune Do Huang fell. A 5-pattern Do Huang expert once said that after the golden rune Do Huang fell, Both of his palms turned into Dao pattern artifacts. But for countless years, the experts of our Golden Rune Temple have searched this place many times, but only found one palm left behind by the Golden Rune Do Huang. So in this valley, there should be another palm, but no one has been able to find it. Tur was still talking. Jiang Xi was already stunned. Could it be that he was the so-called fated person? Wasn't this too much of a cheat? Obviously, the 3 fingers that he had already obtained were from the other hand. However, he still had doubts in his heart. Captain, what is the use of Dao pattern artifacts? Can't they be used as weapons? Just now, Tur had mentioned that these Dao pattern cardinal treasures were useless, and they could only be used as decorations to show off his achievements. Logically speaking, the higher the cultivation of the Dao pattern cultivator, the stronger the body. For example, a 5-pattern Do Huang's body could reach the immortal artifact level. Even if he died, the Dao pattern artifacts from his body parts could be used as immortal artifacts, right? Tur laughed and explained, haha, back then I also asked Lord Kos this question. He told me that the king-level Dao pattern artifacts were indeed useless because the Dao patterns of the king-level Dao pattern artifacts are not permanent and will dissipate in a very short period of time. Without the Dao patterns, these monarch Dao pattern cardinal treasures are only a little sturdier. They are far less convenient to use than supreme-grade spirit artifacts or inferior-grade immortal artifacts. As for the emperor-grade Dao pattern cardinal treasures, although the Dao patterns have been permanently solidified, they are basically used to comprehend Dao techniques. Using a royal-grade Dao pattern cardinal treasure as a weapon? First of all, we are definitely not qualified. The only ones who had the qualification to do so were Lord Cece and other 5-pattern Do Wangs. However, since we don't fancy monarch-grade Dao pattern cardinal treasures, Lord Kosi and the others naturally don't fancy monarch-grade Dao pattern cardinal treasures either. In addition, Dao pattern cardinal treasures are rare items. Therefore, there is basically no one in the entire Do pattern continent who would use them as weapons. After Jiang Xi heard this, his heart was filled with eagerness. In the eyes of the experts of the battle pattern continent, king-class Dao pattern cardinal treasures were only collectibles. Emperor-grade Dao pattern secret treasures were mostly used to comprehend Dao techniques. However, he had the experience points panel so he could refine and absorb the Daoist techniques within. Others might not care, but he did. Thinking of this, Jiang Xi felt that it was a pity and helplessness. It was a pity that the Dao patterns of the king-class Dao pattern cardinal treasures in front of him had already dissipated. There were no Dao techniques left. The helplessness was that he clearly knew that the other palm Dao pattern cardinal treasure left behind by the golden pattern Do Huang was kept in the golden pattern shrine. But he couldn't get it. He couldn't run over and ask for it. That would be courting death at this moment. Tur seemed to have thought of something and suddenly said, by the way, if you can cultivate to the 4-pattern Do Zong realm, remember to apply to Lord. With Lord status in the shrine, he can give you the royal grade Dao pattern cardinal treasure left behind by the golden pattern Do Huang for you to comprehend for 100 years. Back then, when I cultivated to the 4-pattern Do Zong realm, I was lucky enough to comprehend it once. Jiang Xi was stunned. His heart jumped a few times. He was very excited. Comprehend for 100 years. As long as he had a chance to absorb and refine the Dao techniques within it. After Terrace finished explaining, he ignored Jiang Xi's abnormal reaction. In his opinion, these reactions were too normal. No matter who heard these secrets for the first time, they couldn't remain calm. He continued to walk forward with Jiang Xi. Soon they came to an empty cultivation room. Tur said, "This is where you will cultivate in the future. Of course, you are not forced to cultivate here. You can also choose to cultivate in other places in this valley, as long as you don't leave the valley. Remember, without Lord's order, no one is allowed to leave this valley." Jiang Xi nodded, "I will remember." Then, Tur took out a black battle robe and a communication pearl. This is the equipment of the black-robed priest of the Golden Pattern Shrine. Keep it well. Jiang Xi took it. Cultivate well and strive to reach the 4-pattern Do Zong realm as soon as possible. Tur finally smiled and exhorted. After saying that, he left. Jiang Xi breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, the sense of crisis in his heart finally decreased by 3 points. There were still 97 points left. He checked the black battle robe and the communication pearl. The black battle robe was an ordinary spiritual battle robe, so he put it on symbolically. The communication mark in this communication pearl is a little strange. It should have been left by Kosi or Tur. Can be used for surveillance. He didn't need to think to know that he just verbally surrendered. It was impossible for the other party to believe him so easily. A 4-pattern dozong was at the unification stage. No one who could cultivate to this stage was a fool. Based on the information we know, this Kos really wants to recruit subordinates to strengthen his own forces. However, I definitely can't cultivate here. Zhang Xi pondered in his heart. He wanted to find a place to refine the 2 golden fingers he had obtained before. Moreover, he wanted to search the area between 400,000 and 500,000 meters in the valley. If the golden fingers really came from the golden robe dozong, it meant that he was fated with this object. Perhaps he could find the last 2 fingers. As for more, Tur had just said that the other palm of the golden robe dozong had been found by the golden pattern shrine. As long as he could cultivate to a 4-pattern dozong, he could apply for the opportunity to comprehend it for 100 years. After that, Zhang Xi only stayed in the cultivation room for half a day before leaving the Blood Sea Palace and flying towards the top of the valley. After flying for 10,000 meters, Zhang Xi received Tur's spiritual sense transmission. Zhang Xi, where are you going to cultivate? Captain, I have been cultivating in a cave 400,000 meters below the valley all these years. I still want to go there to cultivate. Zhang Xi explained through his spiritual sense transmission. That location is not within the range of my spiritual sense. If you encounter danger, I can't help you. Captain, don't worry. If there is danger, I will come down immediately. Since you have made up your mind, I won't stop you. But remember, without the permission of the Lord, you can't leave this valley. The communication pearl I gave you must also be with you. You can't put it in a storage treasure. Understood? Chapter 399. Tur's spiritual sense transmission did not sound again. Zhang Xi felt relieved and continued to fly upward. The cave at 400,000 meters is not within Tur's detection range. It seems that after a 4-striped dozong went deep into the valley, the detection range of his spiritual sense did not exceed 200 kilometers. According to Tur's words, this communication bead is the one that plays a monitoring role. I still can't be careless. They may have other monitoring methods. Zhang Xi shook his head again. Next, he did not immediately return to the cave. Instead, he searched the area between 400,000 and 500,000 meters. He wanted to see if he could find the remaining 2 golden fingers. At the same time, he wanted to confirm if he was the fated person. Because the concentration of evil aura in this area was stronger, the search speed was slower. 5 days later, he completed the carpet search. Zhang Xi returned to the cave calmly, but he was pleasantly surprised. He was indeed the fated person. His luck was good. He found the remaining 2 golden fingers in the area between 400,000 and 500,000 meters. He did not need to take the risk to search in the Sea of Blood, nor did he need to waste time in the area above 300,000 meters in the valley. Moreover, he had also confirmed that Tur was indeed unable to detect this area. At the same time, the burly Tur was still guarding in the boundless evil aura 30,000 meters above the Sea of Blood. He frowned slightly. He stopped. In the past few days, through the imprint on the communication bead, he found that Zhang Xi had been moving constantly, as if he was searching for something. Could it be that he also wants to find the Dao pattern secret treasure left behind by a gold-striped Do Huang? Tur shook his head gently. He had done the same thing in the past. Not only him, but these black-robed priests under Lord Kos had also searched this valley. The fated person? He did not think that Zhang Xi could find the Dao pattern secret treasure of a gold-striped Do Huang. This Zhang Xi said that he was loyal to Lord Kos, but he still has other ideas in his heart. Let's observe for a while. If there is really a problem, don't blame me for being impolite. Tur's expression was cold. He was not as kind as he appeared. All the black-robed priests under Kos were under his command. If there was conclusive evidence, he could directly kill the problematic person. in the cave 400,000 meters away from the valley. Jiang Xi sat down cross-legged. With a flip of his hand, he took out a golden finger and started to refine it. He was not worried that his actions would be discovered. Otherwise, he would have been noticed when he was trying to assimilate the first finger. The concentration of the baleful aura in this place is quite good for tempering one's will. I'll continue cultivating like this. Now there are two paths. Firstly, he had to fuse more Dao pattern blood crystals so that his Dao pattern art could reach the limit of 3 patterns. In this way, the strength of my body might be able to reach the level of a top-tier spirit weapon in advance. At that time, I will be equivalent to a 4-line Dao zone. Secondly, if the Vajra Dao art reaches the level of the Dao of heaven and earth, the two great mystic techniques, Dao fusion art and Dao pattern art, might undergo a transformation. Let's not talk about the Dao fusion technique for now. I will be able to refine the Vajra Dao art into a Dao pattern, and the toughness of my body will also increase. These two paths could allow him to reach the level of a 4-line Dao zone in advance. After becoming a 4-mark Dao zone, he would be able to apply for the opportunity to comprehend the Emperor-grade Dao pattern cardinal treasure from Kosi. After deciding on the direction of his cultivation, Jiang Xi once again entered a state of cultivation. It was still the same 3 things: tempering one's will, deducing the Dao art, and assimilating the gold element Dao art in the golden finger. Other than contacting his family, master, and friends once in a while, no one else could contact him. In the blink of an eye, another 50 years had passed. This was also the longest time Jiang Xi had been in seclusion since he started cultivating. Kanglin Planet, Songyun Sect. On a mountain peak with a beautiful environment, Jiang Xi, Xiantian, and Li Baibai sat facing each other. Other than Xiantian, who was in his real body, Jiang Xi and Li Baibai were both transmission mirages. Of course, on the surface, there was no difference between a transmission mirage and a real one. The 3 of them had completely different temperaments. Xiantian was like a saber that was about to split open the sky. He was faintly in harmony with the heavens and earth. Li Baibai was ethereal and calm. It was as if the changes in time had nothing to do with her. On the other hand, Jiang Xi's body was suffused with wisps of murderous red light. It was frightening to look at. Jiang Xi, the murderous aura on your body is getting heavier and heavier. This can't go on. It will affect your state of mind, Li Baibai said with a frown. I've been using the murderous aura to temper my will. I can't stay unaffected, Jiang Xi said. Xiantian and Li Baibai also knew that he was cultivating in the land of the fallen gods. You haven't stopped cultivating the peacock visualization, have you? Xiantian asked. Not yet. I'm cultivating it at the same time as my cultivation, Jiang Xi said with a smile. That's good. With the peacock visualization self-visualization image, it won't be a big problem. Xiantian nodded. Big brother, is the peacock visualization that powerful? Li Baibai was confused. When they first obtained the peacock visualization on Earth, the 3 of them had already cultivated it. It's very powerful. I've been studying the history and literature of Buddhism on Earth. Then I collected information about the Tao Alliance. In the end, I came to the conclusion that the peacock visualization is very likely an important inheritance of the Tao Alliance, Xiantian said mysteriously. Jiang Xi and Li Baibai looked at each other speechless. Big brother, there's no need to study it. We all know that it's an important inheritance of Buddhism. Xiantian laughed. I haven't finished yet. Buddhism focuses on cultivating the mind. They often talk about subduing the mind and cultivating the mind. For example, compassion and the Bodhi heart are both manifestations of cultivating the mind. As for the peacock visualization, in my opinion, it's an inheritance of cultivating the mind. Cultivating the mind? Jiang Xi was puzzled. That sounded a bit empty. How could one cultivate the mind? In psychology, one's ID, ego and superego? The mind is a simple thing to talk about, but it's also complicated. For example, the willpower that you've been training for the past few decades is a type of cultivating the mind, Xiantian said with a smile. Of course, the mind isn't just about willpower. It contains many things such as emotions, memories, the subconscious mind, and so on. There are many complicated factors. He said a lot. Jiang Xi vaguely understood something, but it also seemed like he didn't understand anything. You just have to remember what I said. When you reach a certain realm, you'll naturally understand. Xiantian smiled. Then he said, as for the realm of cultivating the mind, I don't know how Buddhism divides it. After so many years of research, I've concluded that there are 3 realms. Today I'll tell you about them. 3 realms? Jiang Xi and Li Baibai were both interested. With the division of realms, it was easy to understand. Simply put, false, grand, empty. These 3 words represent the 3 realms of cultivating the mind, Xiantian said. Jiang Xi and Li Baibai were both speechless. It didn't feel right. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.